Story 1. At Thanksgiving, my sister shoved my 11-year-old daughter down the stairs. Then she started recording and laughing while my daughter cried. My mom watched and said, "Stop being dramatic." So I did this and spent 240 days in jail. All right, Reddit. I'm gonna cut right to it. I just finished an 8-month sentence in Harris County Jail after getting arrested for assault against my own sister. And before you start judging, let me walk you through what happened. Because if you had a child and saw what I saw, you'd probably be reading this from a cell too. I'm Eric, 41 male, used to run operations for a commercial HVAC company outside Houston. Regular dude with a regular life. Paid my bills, coached Little League on weekends, never even got a parking ticket. Typical boring existence and all. Then Thanksgiving 2023 rolled around, and my whole world went sideways. But you need the full picture to understand why I did what I did. It's a bit complicated, so strap in and focus with me. 15 years ago, I married Kelly. A year and a half later, our daughter Nina came along. For about 10 years, things were solid. Not perfect, but solid. Then 2022 hit, and Kelly and I had to admit we were done. We'd become different people who wanted different things. Tried therapy, tried date nights, tried all that nonsense they tell you fixes marriages. Nothing stuck. After 12 years together, we pulled the plug like adults. The divorce was clean, no screaming matches, no lawyers bleeding us dry. Kelly got primary custody of Nina, who was 9 at the time. I got her every other weekend and 2 weeknights. Kelly only lived 15 minutes away, so I saw Nina whenever I wanted. Kelly never played games with custody. She kept our divorce about us, not about Nina. Even pushed me to bring Nina to my family stuff. Which brings me to my family. My parents, Gary and Brenda, are controlling boomers who think they're running some kind of empire. Dad's a retired insurance exec who still acts like he's closing deals. Mom's the type who smiles while slipping passive-aggressive comments into every conversation. Then there's my sister, Savannah. 3 years younger, married to finance bro Evan, one kid named Caleb who's 6. When we were kids, we were tight. But somewhere in our 20s, she changed. Savannah's always been the golden child, though. I could cure cancer and she'd still be their favorite. What really drove the wedge was money. In 2022, Savannah wanted to buy this massive house way outside her budget. She kept calling, asking Kelly and me to co-sign a $650,000 mortgage because she and Evan couldn't qualify a loan. We looked into it. The house was overpriced, Savannah's finances were a mess, and Evan had tanked his credit. And honestly, why would we? We don't owe them. So we said no. Explained that if they defaulted, we'd be on the hook for over $500,000. Savannah didn't take it well, acted like I'd betrayed her. From that point on, things were ice cold. She'd make digs at gatherings about how I abandoned family. I figured she'd get over it. She didn't. We'll come to that. The one person in my family worth a darn is my cousin Nate, my mom's nephew. He's a defense attorney, actually has a spine, and he's the only one who ever called out my parents' nonsense. Over the years, Nate became the guy I'd go to for advice. Straight shooter who'd tell you the truth even when it hurt. There's also my buddy Hunter from work. We've been friends since I started at the HVAC company 8 years ago. Former Marine. The kind of guy who'd help you move a body without asking questions. He'd met my family a few times and already thought Savannah was a piece of work. So that's the setup. Divorced dad with shared custody. Toxic family with a grudge-holding sister. All the ingredients for a complete mess. And brings us to the disaster at Thanksgiving 2023. That day I picked up Nina from Kelly's place around 3 p.m. Nina was excited about seeing her grandparents and cousin Caleb. She had on this blue sweater Kelly bought her, and her hair was braided. The kid looked happy. We got to my parents' place in the suburbs around 4:30. Big house. Maybe 30 people there. Family, neighbors, my dad's golf buddies. Nate was there, which made me feel better. Savannah showed up with Evan and Caleb about 20 minutes after us. Evan gave me this weak handshake and fake smile. Savannah barely acknowledged me. Caleb ran off to play video games with the other kids. Everything seemed normal. Tense, sure, but still normal for my family. The party started like every other Thanksgiving. Dad held court at the head of the table, telling the same stories about his glory days. Mom fussed over everyone, making sure plates were full. The neighbors made polite small talk. Nate and I found a corner and started talking. Nina hung out with the kids for a while, then eventually just sat on the couch watching YouTube. Around 6:30, she got up and headed toward the stairs. I figured she was going to the bathroom. Someone was using the downstairs one. I didn't worry about it. Why would I? I was explaining to Nate why the Texans needed to fire everyone from the owner on down when I heard it. This loud crash that cut through all the noise and conversation. The kind of sound that makes your stomach drop before you process what happened. Everyone stopped. Then we all turned toward the staircase. Nina was at the bottom, crumpled on the hardwood floor. Her face was scrunched up in pain, and her eyes were scanning the room looking for me. About halfway up the stairs stood Savannah, and here's what stuck with me. For maybe 2 seconds before she shifted into concern mode, I caught a glimpse of something else on her face. Satisfaction. Then Savannah sprang into action. She rushed down the stairs, knelt next to Nina, and started this whole performance. "Oh my God, Nina! Are you okay? I told you not to run down the stairs. Why didn't you listen?" And that's when people started laughing. Freaking laughing. Like this was funny. Dad's golf buddy raised his drink and made a joke about kids thinking they're invincible. Mrs. Collins from next door shook her head, talking about how kids don't listen these days. Nobody took it seriously, except me and Nate. I was already running, knocked my chair back hard and got to Nina in a few seconds. She'd managed to sit up, but she was holding her left wrist and trying not to cry. The tears were falling, but she was trying to be tough in front of everyone. When I knelt beside her, she looked at me with this expression that made my blood run cold. Then she leaned close and whispered in my ear, voice shaking, "Dad." Aunt Savannah pushed me. Everything went quiet in my head. I looked back at the stairs. Savannah was standing there with her fake worried face, and suddenly everything clicked into place. The weird look I'd caught, how fast she'd come down, the immediate lie about Nina running. The rage that hit me was, well, it wasn't good. I stood up slowly, looked directly at Savannah, and my voice came out loud. "Why the heck did you push my daughter down the stairs?" You could hear a pin drop. All eyes swung between me and Savannah. Savannah's fake concern morphed into defensive anger so fast it would have been impressive if I wasn't so angry. "What? What the heck are you talking about? Nina fell by herself. I didn't do anything." She threw her hands up playing victim, looking around the room for support. Evan stepped up behind her, puffing his chest out like a rooster. My parents were already making their way over, concern on their faces. But not for Nina, for the scene I was making. "Don't try that. My daughter just told me you pushed her. So I'll ask again. Why?" Her face went red. "You two are making this up to make me look bad. I would never hurt Nina." Around us, people started taking sides. Most sided with Savannah, of course. Perfect Savannah who volunteered at church. Couldn't hurt an ant. Nate was already on his feet. Phone out, moving closer. He was documenting the whole thing. The argument escalated. Voices getting louder. Nina still sitting at the bottom of the stairs while they ignored her. Caleb started crying. Complete chaos. Then my dad's voice boomed across the room. "Everyone shut up!" We all froze. Dad was standing at the head of the table, face red. Mom walked over to Nina. "Nina, sweetie, tell Grandma exactly what happened." Nina wiped her eyes and sat up straighter. I went upstairs to use the bathroom. When I came out, Aunt Savannah was in the hallway. I started walking down first. She was behind me. When I was about halfway down, I felt hands push me really hard in my back. Savannah jumped in immediately. "That's a lie. She fell because she was going too fast. Now she's making up stories." Mom hesitated. "Nina, honey, are you sure? Sometimes when we fall, it feels like someone pushed us." My blood pressure spiked. "Mom, stop!" Nina knows what happened. Why the heck would she lie? Nina looked at Mom with more confidence. "Aunt Savannah pushed me." Mom stood up, her face cold. "Nina, you're making a big fuss over nothing. You're being dramatic," I snapped. I got in Mom's face. "What the heck did you just say?" Mom didn't back down. "It's just falling down some stairs." "You coddle that girl too much, Eric." That's when Savannah pulled out her phone and started recording for Instagram. "Hey guys, look at my niece. She fell down the stairs being careless, and now she's trying to blame me. Can you believe this? She was humiliating my daughter while she sat there hurt." I crossed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed the phone, and stopped the recording. "What the heck are you doing?" "Give my phone back." "Shut the hell up," I shouted. Evan tried to grab it back, but I held it away. The room erupted. People yelling, my parents trying to calm things down, Savannah screaming about her phone. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Everyone stopped and stared. "I'm calling the cops." Mom rushed over, trying to grab my phone. "Stop it! Do you want the neighborhood gossiping about us? This is a family matter. The neighbors are already here, Mom." Savannah crossed her arms with this smug smile. "Go ahead. When they get here and prove your brat is lying, we'll see who's in trouble." I ignored them and waited for the operator to pick up. But before anyone answered, Dad snatched the phone from my hand and ended the call. I stared at him in disbelief. What the heck? Dad looked at me coldly, completely calm, and said, I don't want the police here. And even if Savannah did push her, it was an accident. Don't call the cops on your own sister over a freaking accident. The words hung in the air. I looked around the room at all these people I'd known my whole life, family, friends, people who'd watched Nina grow up, and not one person cared that she was sitting there in pain, assaulted, and called a liar. They'd all chosen Savannah, and that was a mistake, because I wasn't going to let them do this to my kid. The room stayed frozen. Then Nate stepped forward from where he'd been standing quietly off to the side. Everyone's eyes shifted to him as he walked into the center, phone held up. Savannah pushed Nina. I recorded the whole thing. You could have powered the entire city of Houston with the shock that went through that room. Mouths dropped. Savannah went pale. My parents looked like they'd been slapped. Nate stood there calm. He tapped his phone a few times. I'm sending it to the family group chat right now. Everyone can see it. Evan found his voice first, though it cracked. Nonsense. There's no video. I grabbed my phone back from Dad's grip. I opened the group chat. There it was. I hit play. The video showed the party from Nate's angle near the dining room. You could see the staircase clearly in the background. The quality was decent. Nate had a new iPhone. There was Nina, walking carefully down the stairs. Right behind her was Savannah. And just like Nina said, when Nina was about halfway down, Savannah reached out with both hands and shoved her hard in the back. You could see Nina's body jerk forward, her arms flailing, before she tumbled down the rest of the stairs. The video ended. Nobody spoke. Then he broke the silence. I've been filming family gatherings for my mom since she can't travel anymore. She watches the videos later. I caught everything. My parents stood there looking shell-shocked. Dad's mouth was opening and closing, but nothing came out. Mom had her hand over her chest. Savannah's confidence evaporated. She looked like a cornered animal, eyes darting around for an escape. Evan stared at his wife like he was seeing a stranger. As for me, I did something I definitely don't regret. I looked at her. This person who'd pushed my daughter, then lied, then mocked her on video, then accused her of lying. I didn't say anything. Just started walking toward her. She saw me coming and backed up. Eric, wait! I didn't wait. I grabbed her by the throat, not choking, just controlling, and started dragging her toward the stairs. She fought, clawing at my arm. The room erupted into screaming. Eric, stop! Someone stop him! What are you doing? My parents rushed forward. Mom was crying. Dad was yelling. Evan tried to grab me, but I shoved him back hard enough. He stumbled into the coffee table. Nate was shouting something about consequences. Caleb was screaming for his mom. I blocked all of it out. I dragged her up the stairs. She was screaming now, genuinely terrified, begging everyone to help. People were following us up, but I was faster, running on pure rage. When I reached the middle of the staircase, I let go of her throat and stepped behind her. Then I kicked her, hard, right between her shoulder blades. She didn't just fall. She flew, landed past the spot where Nina had landed, and crashed into the crowd below. The sound she made will stay with me forever. I walked down the stairs calmly while chaos erupted. Savannah was on the floor groaning. Evan was checking her over. People were screaming and crying and yelling at me. Mom was sobbing. Dad was shouting and cursing. Nate looked at me with this sad expression. Hunter, who'd been standing in the back the whole time watching everything unfold, caught my eye and gave me a small nod, like he understood. I walked through the crowd like they weren't there, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911 again. This time, nobody tried to stop me. When the operator answered, I said in this calm voice, I need police and paramedics. I just assaulted my sister as retaliation for what she did to my daughter. Here's the address. I gave them the information, hung up, and stood by the door, waiting. The party was over. 15 minutes later, the street lit up with red and blue lights. 3 cop cars and an ambulance parked outside my parents' house. When the officers walked in, Savannah was on the floor with Evan hovering over her, my shell-shocked parents, and me standing by the door like I was waiting for an Uber. The lead officer took one look and knew it'd be a long night. They separated everyone at the precinct. Me, Nina, my parents, Savannah and Evan, Nate, Hunter, all in different rooms. It was past midnight, and the whole place had this exhausted end-of-shift energy. CPS routed Nina to the Children's Advocacy Center for a forensic interview. Kelly met them at the hospital. Then CPS coordinated the CAC interview the same night. Standard drill, trained interviewer, one-way glass, clean audio. That was its own kind of torture, knowing my kid was scared and hurt and I couldn't be there. But they assured me Kelly was being called, which gave me some relief. At least Nina wouldn't be alone. They put me in an interrogation room. Small, gray, metal table, uncomfortable chairs, the works. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes before Detective Adrian came in. He set down a case file, turned on the recorder, and sat across from me. Mr. Carson, walk me through what happened tonight. So I did. Told him everything, just laid out the facts. He took notes, occasionally nodding. When I finished, he looked up. Any history of violence? Prior record? No, this is the first time. He studied me. You understand what you did is assault? Yes. Do you regret it? I looked him straight in the eye. No. Something shifted in his expression. He finished the questions, turned off the recorder, leaned forward and said quietly, I have a daughter. I get it. He stood up and walked out, left me sitting there processing everything. Turns out while I was being questioned, Savannah was at the hospital getting checked. Severe bruising on her back and spine, minor spinal trauma, but nothing life-threatening. She'd recover. Meanwhile, Nina's injuries were minor. Bruised wrist, scraped knees, nothing broken. They booked me that night. I saw the magistrate. Bond set at $20,000. Nate called a bondsman, and I was out by 3, on no contact and travel conditions. I walked out to find my parents standing by their car. They looked at me like they wanted to say something, then just got in and drove away without a word. Nate was waiting by his car. He looked exhausted and conflicted. You need a ride? He asked. No, I need to get to the hospital. See Nina. He nodded, didn't argue, and left. Hunter was leaning against his truck smoking a cigarette. When he saw me, he flicked it away and walked over. You good? He asked. No. Want company at the hospital? I nodded. When we got to Houston Methodist and found Nina's room, I could see Kelly through the door. She was sitting on the bed holding our daughter, stroking her hair. I stood there watching them for a moment. Even though Kelly and I didn't work as a couple, she was a darn good mother. I was grateful she'd gotten there so fast. When I walked in, Nina's face lit up. I kissed her forehead. How are you doing, kiddo? My wrist hurts, but I'm okay. Kelly stood up and motioned for me to step into the hallway. Hunter stayed with Nina. When Kelly and I were alone, she looked at me seriously. Thank you for protecting her. Nina told me everything. She trailed off, shaking her head in disgust. I saw the video Nate sent. I'm not saying what you did was right, but I understand why. I looked Kelly in the eye. Nobody touches our daughter. I know, she said quietly, then added, I was terrified when CPS called. But when Nina told me what you did, she paused. You showed her that her father will protect her no matter what. That matters. Standing in that hospital hallway at 4:30 in the morning, Kelly and I found a new understanding. We weren't a couple anymore, but we were parents, both protecting our kid. Kelly went back in with Nina while Hunter and I found a vending machine. We got coffee and sat in the waiting room, not saying much. Hunter understood I didn't need conversation, just company. After a while, he said, Your family is a piece of work. As if that's some news to you. He smiled. The DA filed aggravated assault at first. A grand jury indicted in January 2024. We had discovery and settings through spring. In June 2024, I pled down to assault causing bodily injury, 240 days in county, and $8,000 restitution. Clean record before this helped. I took it. Harris County Criminal Court looked exactly like you'd expect on trial day. Imposing, cold, designed to make you feel small. I showed up in my only suit. Kelly sat behind me. We'd agreed Nina shouldn't be there. Savannah and Evan sat on the opposite side, far from me. My parents were in some neutral zone, still trying to figure out which kid to support. Nate sat in the back row, his lawyer instincts analyzing every procedural move. Hunter took the day off work to be there. Didn't say much, just showed up. That's the kind of friend he was. When they brought Savannah to the witness stand, she looked rough. After the swearing in, Savannah's lawyer tried to build sympathy with softball questions, but the prosecutor cut through the nonsense fast. And that's when Savannah said something that made the courtroom gasp. I did it to get revenge on his ex-wife. What the heck? I turned to look at Kelly. She looked as confused as I felt. Savannah and Kelly barely knew each other. They'd interacted maybe a dozen times during our marriage, always polite and distant. Judge Lopez leaned forward. Explain that statement, Ms. Carson. Savannah's voice was flat, emotionless, like she'd rehearsed this and lost all feeling behind the words. In 2022, I wanted to buy a house. A really nice house that Evan and I couldn't qualify for on our own. I asked Eric and Kelly to co-sign a $650,000 mortgage. Kelly said no. She told me it was too risky, that they couldn't take on that liability. I've hated her ever since. Still do. The courtroom buzzed. The judge banged her gavel. Kelly's hand gripped the bench in front of her, knuckles white. I remembered that conversation. Savannah had been obsessed with that massive house. Kelly had researched it and realized Savannah's financial situation was a disaster waiting to happen. One missed payment, and we'd be on the hook for over $500,000. We were saved from financial ruin by saying no, and Savannah had nursed that grudge for over a year before taking it out on an innocent kid. Judge Lopez looked at Savannah with barely concealed disgust. Ms. Carson, you injured a child to punish an adult. That's why you're going to prison. The trial moved fast after that. With video evidence and Savannah's confession of motive, there wasn't much to debate. Nate had made sure the video was authenticated properly. Savannah pled to injury to a child. Judge Lopez gave her 3 years in TDCJ and a 5-year protective order, keeping her 300 feet from Nina and Kelly. The order covered everything. No calls, no texts, no social media, and no third-party contact, and it included staying away from Nina's school and activities. Within 2 weeks of sentencing, Evan filed for divorce and emergency custody modification. His attorney cited Savannah's felony conviction, the restraining order, and her demonstrated threat to child safety. The family court awarded Evan primary physical custody, with Savannah receiving 0 parenting time, pending completion of her sentence, and a future fitness evaluation. At least the guy had finally grown a spine. My turn came next. Despite everything, the provocation, protecting my child, my clean record, I'd still face the consequences of what I'd done. Sentence: 240 days in Harris County Jail, Class A misdemeanor plea to assault causing bodily injury, and $8,000 restitution. When the judge read my sentence, I felt nothing. No relief, no anger, no regret. I just accepted it. 8 months for making sure my daughter knew her father wouldn't let anyone hurt her without consequences. Definitely worth it. Harris County Jail isn't a movie, but it isn't a resort either. I did 240 days, county time on the misdemeanor plea. The first few days were the hardest, adjusting to the noise, the routine, the complete loss of privacy and freedom. I shared a cell with a guy named Big Joe who was in for his 4th DUI. When I told him why I was there, he just nodded and said, "Man, I got 3 daughters. I'd have done worse." Most guys in there understood. Word spread about why I was locked up, and I got respect. Even the guards treated me decently. Life inside developed a rhythm. Wake up at 5:30 to metal doors clanging. Breakfast in a crowded cafeteria that smelled like industrial cleaner and bad eggs. Work detail in the kitchen for a few hours. Mindless work that let me zone out. Lunch, more work, or yard time if weather permitted. Dinner, evening in the cell. The hardest part wasn't the routine or lack of freedom. It was missing Nina. Missing the little things. Helping with homework, making pancakes on Sunday mornings, you know? I'd taken for granted how much of my life revolved around being her dad. But every single week, Kelly brought Nina to visit. Rain, shine, snow, they never missed once. Not when Kelly had the flu, not when Nina had a school event, not when it would have been easier to skip. They still showed up. The first visit was rough. Nina tried to be strong, but I could see it in her eyes. She was scared and sad, and I felt like the worst father in the world for putting her through this. But she held my hand through the glass partition and said, "Dad, thank you for protecting me. My sweet kid." Over the weeks, visits got easier. Nina would update me on school, her friends, some boy she thought was cute, normal preteen stuff. Kelly would give me updates about therapy. Apparently, Nina was working through everything with a counselor and doing well. They both seemed okay, which was all I could ask for. Hunter visited every other week, brought news from work, sports updates, made sure I knew my job was waiting when I got out. Steve, our boss, had apparently told the whole office I was taking extended leave for family reasons, and anyone who had a problem with it could find another job. Good people exist. Nate visited once a month, always brought legal updates, news about the family. He'd made his disappointment clear at the trial, but never abandoned me. That's what real family does. Disagrees with you, but doesn't disappear. My parents? They sent one letter about 6 weeks in. A half-hearted apology filled with, "We didn't understand, and we were shocked, and we love you both." I read it once and never responded. Some things can't be fixed with a letter. Savannah was in a women's facility on the other side of Houston serving her sentence. I didn't think about her much. Didn't waste energy on anger anymore. She'd made her choices and was living with them. Same as me. The guys I was locked up with became something like friends. Big Joe taught me poker. I taught a younger kid named Carlos how to write better cover letters for when he got out. There was a weird brotherhood in there. A bunch of guys who'd screwed up in various ways, just trying to survive. At night, lying on my bunk listening to Big Joe snore and the distant sounds of the jail, I'd think about that Thanksgiving. The look on Nina's face when she fell. And I'd think about the feeling of my boot connecting with Savannah's back, the satisfaction of it. I never felt guilty. The months crawled by. Summer turned to fall. I missed Nina's 12th birthday, which killed me. Kelly sent photos of the party, Nina smiling with friends, blowing out candles. She looked happy. That helped. I worked out in the yard, read every book in the jail library that wasn't complete garbage, and counted down the days. 8 months isn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but when you're living it, dang it, every day feels like a week. Finally, in October 2024, I walked out. Completed my sentence, paid my debt to society, whatever you want to call it. The Harris County jail gates opened, and I stepped into autumn sunshine that felt better than anything I'd felt in months. Kelly and Nina were waiting. Nina ran over and hugged me so tight. Kelly hung back, but smiled. We didn't talk much on the drive to Kelly's place. Just sat in comfortable silence while I looked at normal things I'd taken for granted. Trees, traffic, people walking dogs, the freedom to go where you want when you want. That first night in my own apartment, sleeping in my own bed, eating real food, taking a shower alone, it was heaven. I knew rebuilding wouldn't be easy, but it's okay. I'm out now. Then about 7 months after my release, I got a call from an unknown number. Eric, it's me. Savannah's voice. I hadn't heard it in a year and a half. It sounded different, smaller. I should have hung up immediately. Instead, I asked, how'd you get this number? Mom gave it to me. I need to talk to you. In person. Please. Why? I need to apologize. I've been working with a therapist and I need to make amends. Please, Eric. 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to tell her to go to hell, but another part wanted to look her in the eye one more time. See if she'd actually regretted it or if this was just another manipulation. Fine. 1 hour. That park near the old neighborhood. Tomorrow at 2. She agreed immediately. Could hear her voice light up. Should have been my first warning sign. The next day, I showed up at Memorial Park and found a bench away from the playground. I texted Hunter where I was, just in case. He responded with want backup? I told him no, but appreciated it. Savannah walked in at 2 sharp. She looked thinner, tired. She was on parole, curfew, travel limits, and monthly check-ins. She spotted me and walked over slowly. She sat down across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "Thank you for meeting me, brother." I didn't respond. She fidgeted with her hands. I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did. My therapist says I have unresolved anger issues, and I project them onto people who trigger my insecurities. Therapy speak. Wonderful. Savannah, get to the point. Why did you want to meet me? She took a breath. I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm truly, deeply sorry for what I did to Nina. It was wrong. It was unforgivable. And I've spent every day since wishing I could take it back. I studied her face, looking for sincerity, looking for the catch. Because there was always a catch with Savannah. Okay, you apologized. Are we done? No. She leaned forward. I need to ask you something. A favor. There it is. I knew it wasn't just an apology. Evan's divorcing me, you know. He's getting full custody of Caleb. I'm going to have nothing when parole ends. No husband, no son, no house, nothing. I could see where this was going, but I let her speak. Mom and Dad won't help me. They said I made my bed, but you're successful. You have money. I need help getting back on my feet. Just a small loan. Maybe $20,000 to get an apartment, buy a car, start over. The nerve she got. I was almost impressed. You pushed my daughter down the stairs. And now you want me to give you money? I said I was sorry. I screwed up, okay? Yeah, and for your apology, I should reward you? Sorry doesn't erase what you did, Savannah. Her expression started shifting. The mask was slipping. I've lost everything, Eric. Everything. Don't you think I've paid enough? No. I don't think you've paid nearly enough. Her eyes hardened. How could you be so cruel? I happened to be. She calmed down again, but it was forced. Fine. Then I need you to do something else. My counselor told me to ask you for a victim statement so I can try for an early discharge from parole. I need you to say you forgive me and that you believe I'm safe to be around, so they'll consider ending the supervision early. I can't live like this, Eric. Curfew, check-ins, can't leave the county, can't see my own son. Please, I'm begging you. And there was the truth of it. No remorse. Not a genuine apology. She was just desperate. Nope. What? I said no. You don't get my help. You don't get my forgiveness. You don't get anything from me. But I apologized, and I don't forgive you. Her face completely transformed in a second. You self-righteous jerk. After everything our family has been through, you can't even help your own sister? You're not my sister anymore. You lost that title when you hurt my daughter. She stood up fast, knocking her chair back. People in the park were starting to stare. You know what? Screw you, Eric. Screw you and your precious daughter. I should have pushed her harder. There it was. The real Savannah. I stood up slowly, calmly, looked her dead in the eye and said quietly, "You should leave now, before I throw away my freedom again and do something we'll both regret." For a moment, she looked scared, really scared, like she realized she'd just threatened my daughter to my face after I'd served 8 months for defending her. She backed up a step. "This isn't over," she said, but her voice shook. "Yeah, it is. Don't contact me again. Don't try to contact my daughter or Kelly. You're nothing to us now. Less than nothing." Her face crumpled. Then she started crying. Real tears this time. "Please, Eric. I have nobody else. I need help. I'm desperate. We're done here." I walked past her toward the exit. She grabbed my arm. "I'll tell everyone you threatened me. I'll get you sent back to jail." I pulled my arm free and leaned in close. "I've got 12 witnesses in this park who just watched you threaten my daughter again. Plus, I recorded this whole conversation on my phone. Try me." I held up my phone where I'd been recording since she sat down. Her face went white. She had nothing left. I walked out of that park and didn't look back. Didn't feel satisfaction or vindication or anything. Just relief that I'd never have to see her again. Relief that she'd proven twice she couldn't be trusted. Savannah served out her full parole term. No early discharge. Full supervision for 18 more months. Evan got permanent sole custody with the restraining order staying in place. My parents tried to reconcile with her after parole ended, but she cut them off completely. Last I heard, she moved to a different state and worked some dead-end job. We have no contact. My parents? We're civil now. Barely. We see each other at occasional family events and maintain polite distance. They know they chose wrong that Thanksgiving. They've never fully apologized, but the guilt shows in how they treat Nina now. Always buying her gifts, always asking about her, always overcompensating. It's too little too late, but Nina has a bigger heart than I do. She accepts their attempts at redemption. Nate and I patched things up. He understood why I did what I did, even if he disagreed with how. Hunter is still my best friend. Still the guy I'd call if I needed help burying a body. Kelly and I? We're better co-parents now than we ever were as spouses. And Nina is thriving. 12 now, doing great in school, hanging with friends, being a normal teenager. The therapy helped her process everything. She doesn't flinch around stairs, doesn't have nightmares about it. She just knows, really knows, that her father has her back. And that's worth everything to me. So yeah, that's my story. The story of how I spent 8 months in jail for kicking my sister down the stairs because I chose to protect my daughter. Would I do it differently if I could go back? Heck no. I'd drag her higher and kick harder. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 2. Am I in the jerk for asking my boyfriend's ex to leave our place? Let me lay out the situation for you. I'm a 35-year-old woman, and my partner is a 41-year-old man. We've been together for a lovely 7 years, building our life side by side. Both of us have experienced marriage and subsequent divorce in our pasts, which has shaped how we approach our current relationship, especially when it comes to financial matters. We've both embraced the idea of financial independence within our partnership, meaning we keep our finances and personal belongings distinctly separate. To put it simply, what's mine is strictly mine, and what belongs to him is exclusively his. Given this background, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on whether it was wrong of me to ask my boyfriend's ex to leave our shared space. It's a decision that wasn't made lightly, considering our principles of independence and respect for personal boundaries. I'm here to gain some insight and understand if my actions were justified, or if I might have overstepped. I'm CF, and through years of hard work, I've established a comfortable position in my career. My boyfriend, on the other hand, earns less than I do and is also responsible for a significant amount of child support. He's committed to supporting all 5 of his children's extracurricular activities, which is something I admire deeply. Given this situation, we've come to an understanding that I cover all our living expenses, including mortgage, loans, and groceries, while he contributes to our household in any way he can, especially in caring for his children when they're with us. 5 years back, I made the decision to purchase a house for us, making sure it was a place where his kids could feel at home and welcome during their visits. This decision, however, sparked quite a bit of controversy. His ex accused me of attempting to overshadow her by providing for the children in a way she perceived as flaunting my financial status. Her exact words were that I bought the house not out of kindness, but to show off and make a statement about my own superiority. From the beginning, I've made it a point to keep a respectful distance from his ex, especially considering their divorce was fraught with complications, which she unjustly blamed on me, even though I hadn't even met my partner until almost a year after their separation. To add to the complexity, she has a history of domestic violence against him, and my involvement in their lives has only intensified her animosity. About a year and a half ago, I was presented with an incredible job opportunity, but it required us to move 12 hours away from where we lived. This move, while beneficial for my career and our future, added another layer of tension to the already strained relationships and dynamics within our blended family. After thorough discussions with my boyfriend and his ex, we collectively decided that I would take up a fantastic job opportunity that required us to relocate. To support this transition, we arranged for his ex to rent my house at a significantly reduced price, under the condition that this arrangement would last for only 2 years. However, due to changes in my work situation, we've since moved back to our original hometown. Currently, my boyfriend and I are staying in a modest rental place, but since our return, his ex has become increasingly hostile towards me. She has even gone as far as to tell my boyfriend that his children have always disliked me, claiming their kindness was solely out of respect for him and that they never wished to see me again. She accuses me of attempting to purchase the children's affection, portraying her as an inadequate mother, and essentially blames me for all the negativity in their lives, a notion I find to be quite exaggerated. Despite these accusations, I genuinely care for the children in my own way and would never want to put them in a position where they feel torn or uncomfortable because of me. To ensure they remain at ease, we've arranged for my boyfriend to spend ample time with them and to be present at their extracurricular and school events without me. When my work requires me to travel, that's when the children visit our home. I've suggested the possibility of therapy or counseling to address these issues constructively, but the ex dismisses the idea outright, interpreting it as an attack on her parenting. Now, with the 2 year agreement nearing its end and me wanting to reclaim my house, she argues that since I can afford both a rental and a mortgage, I should allow her and the children to continue living in the house indefinitely. Given the current state of affairs, where the children have expressed their dislike for me, it seems impractical for just my boyfriend and me to occupy what's perceived as an excessively large space. This sentiment has escalated to the point where his children are now even more upset with me, accusing me of forcing them and their mother out of what they've come to consider their home. My boyfriend is caught in a difficult position, primarily concerned with the well-being and happiness of his children. Before delving into the updates, let's address some of the initial reactions. A prevalent sentiment is that the house in question is not a shared family home, but rather belongs to me. The advice leans heavily against allowing manipulation due to financial disparities between what he and his ex can afford. This situation reminds me of a story about a lottery winner who faced unfair expectations due to her newfound wealth, suggesting that inability to afford a home does not obligate someone to forfeit their property to another. The consensus is to provide the ex with a fair notice, such as 1 month, to find alternative accommodation, fully understanding that the children's feelings are beyond my control. If their response is unfavorable, it's important to recognize that their attitudes are shaped by their upbringing, which seems to lack lessons in respect and understanding of boundaries. The decision to allow the ex to stay in the house, though made with generosity, has been met with unwarranted negativity. The ex's interpretation of every action as malicious has unfortunately positioned me as the antagonist for not permanently handing over the house. This situation was somewhat foreseeable, yet it's clear that reclaiming the house might lead to the need for formal eviction processes and potentially dealing with damage to the property as a form of backlash. In summary, the path forward involves reclaiming my house while preparing for the complexities and potential fallout that may accompany such a decision. Being portrayed as the villain in this scenario is unfair to you, Opie. It's clear that you're not at fault here, but there's a hint of naivety and a lack of judgment on your part. Engaging in this arrangement was questionable from the start. It prompts a serious reflection on what you're truly gaining from this relationship. The situation appears to be deteriorating, and it's unlikely to improve. You're shouldering a financial burden for someone who seems incapable of defending you or standing up for himself. It appears as though you're exerting effort to support both yourself and his children, yet the dynamics suggest otherwise. Your boyfriend's ex seems to have significant influence over your relationship, raising the question of whom you're actually in a relationship with, him or his ex. This situation is not something you need to endure. Life without these complications will likely bring you much relief. You're caught in a conflict that seems unwinnable. Your boyfriend's reluctance to confront his ex about her manipulative behavior and the alienation of his children indicates a deeper issue. Don't you think you deserve more? With your financial stability, you could be enjoying your life rather than being embroiled in endless drama. It's important to consider moving on from worrying about children who are being taught to resent you. The future appears grim if the current trajectory continues. The expectations set by their mother could lead to them demanding your financial support for major life events and necessities, all while disrespecting you. Therapy may seem like a solution, but it's ineffective if their mother continues to influence their perception of you. You're not in the wrong here, but the path ahead looks challenging with the ongoing dynamics. It's crucial to prioritize your well-being and reconsider the viability of this relationship. It seems like your boyfriend has a tendency to yield to any and all requests, with his ex encouraging this behavior at every turn. The advice to distance yourself from this situation by removing them from your life is bold, but might offer a pathway to freedom. Reflecting on what you truly gain from this relationship is crucial. While it may not offer the loving and fulfilling partnership you envisioned, relationships are complex and can't be fully encapsulated in a single post. Despite the financial implications being a significant aspect of your concerns, you've chosen to support your partner due to your own personal circumstances, including having a limited family network and no children of your own. Acknowledging that allowing the ex to rent was a mistake is an important step, and it's clear you've recognized the naivety in hoping for her appreciation. The idea of evicting her, while difficult, has been made somewhat easier by involving a professional agent to manage the process, and your boyfriend is prepared for the consequences. Your guilt concerning the children is understandable, as they are innocent in this complex adult situation. 4 months have passed since my last update, and I've received several requests for more information following my original story. If you're curious about the details, feel free to explore my profile for the backstory. Reflecting on my actions and the feedback from the community, I've come to recognize my mistakes. The realization hit me hard. I was at fault for how I handled things. The desire to reclaim my house was strong, but the thought of living in a space that no longer felt like mine, tainted by the presence of someone I had grown to resent, was unsettling. The house had lost its sense of being my sanctuary, prompting a decisive move on my part. I chose to sell it. Discussing this with my boyfriend, his reaction was lukewarm at best, leaving the decision squarely on my shoulders. I offered his ex the choice to either stay in the house under new ownership or find a new place to live. Her reaction was extreme, to say the least, revealing a shocking development between her and my boyfriend. In my absence, due to frequent work-related travel, it appears they rekindled their connection, sharing inappropriate messages and photos alongside complaints about me. She even suggested that should my boyfriend and I part ways, leaving the house to them would solve my space dilemma. Confronting my boyfriend led to a moment of panic on his part before he confessed to everything. He insisted their interactions were emotional rather than physical, driven by loneliness and the need for comfort during my absence. He expressed deep remorse and embarrassment, admitting that the situation stemmed from his feelings of inadequacy and missing his children. This revelation has forced me to reevaluate our relationship and the future of our living arrangements, confronting the complex emotions and decisions that come with such unexpected betrayals. Amidst a whirlwind of excuses and reasons that I won't even bother detailing, the outcome is that I find myself newly single. I've ended the relationship, evicted him, and listed the house for sale. In a fresh start, I've placed an offer on a charming townhouse by the beach. Taking a leap into new beginnings, I also ventured into the world of online dating. This seemed like the perfect moment to update the Reddit community, affirming that many of you were right about the direction my life was taking. Life isn't perfect at the moment, but I'm optimistic about finding happiness again. My ex complained about feeling overshadowed by my success, yet he seemed perfectly comfortable with his ex's outrageous behavior. It's ironic how financial concerns became a central theme in their secret communications, especially given that I work tirelessly, 3 weeks each month, 12 hours daily, to maintain my lifestyle, unlike him, burdened by the responsibilities of fathering 5 children. Reflecting on it, I've come to see my ex in a new light, as someone lacking the maturity to handle a partner's success. The societal expectation that men should not feel threatened by their partner's financial achievements seems lost on him. His insecurities were misplaced, focusing on my financial status rather than the genuine issues his ex brought into our lives, which genuinely warranted concern. Their actions, however misguided, have inadvertently done me a favor by revealing their true characters. Through her revelations and his admissions, they've removed themselves from my life, eliminating the constant stress and tension their presence caused. This update marks the closure of a chapter filled with deceit and manipulation, and I'm now moving forward, relieved and ready for whatever comes next. I'm curious if the community would be interested in hearing more about how the saga with the ex and her antics unfolds. But for now, I'm focusing on rebuilding and enjoying a much-needed peace of mind. I've been doing my best to keep myself in the dark about their current circumstances, not so much for their sake, but for the kids. Despite everything that went down between me and their parents, I was a significant part of their lives for a considerable amount of time. The thought of those children possibly facing a tough time because of their parents' reckless decisions does trouble me. It's hard not to think about whether they're in a safe and stable environment now. Living in a small town means running into them or catching glimpses of their lives is somewhat inevitable. Just the other day, I spotted one of the kids from afar while I was near the local market, and my ex was there too, confirming my suspicions that he and his ex might be back together. Seeing them didn't bring up feelings of hurt. It was more a sense of disbelief at their lack of awareness about their own situation. It felt like observing two people making obviously poor choices, yet completely oblivious to the consequences. As for their living arrangements and whether they're truly together, I genuinely have no idea. After everything came to light, I offered him the option to stay in the rental while I sought a new place for myself. I left it to my real estate agent to handle the dealings with his ex, making it clear that I wanted minimal involvement. My only requests were to be notified once she vacated the property and when the sales were finalized. The whole situation has been a lesson in distancing myself from the chaos and focusing on my own path forward. While part of me is curious about how they're managing, especially for the kids' sake, I'm consciously choosing to not let their choices impact my peace of mind any longer. I've recently been updated that she is expected to vacate the house by mid-November, and the house is set to hit the market by mid-December. Throughout this ordeal, I've chosen to remain deliberately uninformed about their living situation to preserve my mental health. I must admit, the outpouring of support and kindness from everyone here has caught me off guard emotionally. Over the past few months, I've been harshly berating myself for being so naive and overly accommodating in the whole mess. I anticipate some critical remarks may still be on their way, but rest assured, no one is more critical of me than I am at this moment. Moving on to a different dilemma now. Am I wrong for not inviting my children to my wedding? I am a woman who has found love again with a man, 39, who has never been married. This marks my second walk down the aisle after a painful ending to my first marriage, which concluded when my husband left me for another woman. He proposed a substantial financial settlement for the divorce, which I accepted and used to start anew abroad, where I met my current fiancé. My adult children, a 27-year-old son and a 25-year-old daughter, are upset they weren't invited to the ceremony. They learned of my upcoming nuptials through other family members. My decision to exclude them was deliberate, stemming from their persistent attempts to mend bridges between me, my ex-husband, and the woman he left me for. The expectation placed upon me to forgive and befriend my ex-husband's partner felt like a profound disrespect. Despite our divorce 5 years ago, when my children were 23 and 20, they wished for me to not only accept my ex's new relationship, but to actively support it. My ex-husband even had the audacity to seek my blessing, claiming he still valued me as a friend and the mother of his children. My ex-husband's affair was a profound betrayal, and it was astonishing to him that I chose to cut off contact following his actions. Despite this, my children believed I should forgive him and maintain a friendship. They even went as far as organizing lunches or dinners under the guise of family gatherings, only to have my ex and his mistress unexpectedly show up. Family events would include her, and I would be misled about the timing to ensure we crossed paths. My children seem unable to accept that he and I do not communicate and are pushing for reconciliation. Given this backdrop, is it unreasonable that I chose not to invite my children to my wedding? The responses I've received lean heavily towards support for my decision. Many feel that given my children's past actions, there's a risk they might cause distress at my wedding. Furthermore, there's widespread disbelief at the insensitivity of both my children and ex-husband for pressing me to endorse an affair that led to so much pain. It appears my children might be under the impression that my blessing of my ex-husband's new relationship would somehow absolve him of his wrongdoing. The notion that he still regards me as his best friend and the mother of his children, yet treated me with such disregard, seems to expose a misunderstanding of what true friendship entails. To them, best friend might as well mean convenient doormat. Regrettably, it might require them experiencing a similar form of betrayal to fully grasp the depth of the hurt they've dismissed. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope they never go through the pain I went through. Thank you. I never thought I would get remarried, but he won me over. Hallie, not the Hallie. Email something like this to your children. You weren't invited to my wedding because you don't respect my boundaries. And multiple occasions, you have ambushed me with your fathers and a woman. He cheated on me with presence at events in which you assured me they wouldn't be there. Your father cheated on me, yet you criticize me, and apparently absolve him of the wrongdoing that he did to me. I don't know how your ethical beliefs got so twisted, but this behavior was hurtful and wrong. I'm not in contact with you for those reasons. If you ever decide that there was no justification for your father's cheating, and that I deserve to be treated in a loving and respectful way, I will happily welcome you back into my life, not alone. I was very ready to say you're too a-hole after reading the title. My father had been married 3 times since our parents divorced, and neither myself or my sisters have ever been invited to any of the weddings. And we always thought we had a good relationship with our dad. If you're not in contact with them for your own mental health, then no, you're not required to invite them. A gentle reminder. You don't have to be the bigger person. You don't have to accept insincere apologies. You don't have to tolerate relationships that drain you. You don't have to spend your whole life showing up for people who have no interest in showing up for you. Last story. For making it clear to my ex, Lynn, that her children are not my responsibility, nor my son's, Lynn attempted to persuade me to relinquish my custody rights so her new husband could adopt my son, aiming for a family dynamic that excluded me entirely. I stood my ground, incurring significant legal expenses, but ultimately securing shared custody, a 50-50 arrangement with my son. Lynn and her husband later had 2 children together, but she became ill with cancer. The man she left me for abandoned her amid her health struggles. During this time, my son, who was 14, found himself in the position of primary caregiver for his half-siblings, which began to take a toll on his academic performance. I praised him for his compassion and dedication to his siblings, yet I stressed that it shouldn't come at the expense of his own future. Upon confronting Lynn about the situation, she expressed a desire to sever financial ties with her ex, believing that accepting child support would simply allow him to compensate for his absence with money. While I could somewhat understand her perspective, I made it clear that if her decisions were going to jeopardize my son's future, I would be compelled to seek full custody and request child support from her to ensure his well-being and academic prospects were protected. Lynn accused me of meddling in her marital affairs and suggested that my actions were motivated by lingering bitterness from our breakup. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. While it's true that her departure initially left me devastated and longing for reconciliation, I've since moved on and found contentment in my current life. I want to clarify, especially for those quick to pass judgment, that Lynn is financially stable and fully capable of providing child support. It's unreasonable for my son to be burdened with the role of an unpaid caregiver, juggling his academic responsibilities when alternatives like daycare or hiring a nanny are well within their means. It appears I stand alone in advocating for my son's welfare, emphasizing the importance of his education and personal growth amidst these complex family dynamics. Before anyone critiques my stance, it's essential to recognize that the responsibility for caring for Lynn's children shouldn't fall on my son. While it's commendable for siblings to support each other, expecting him to assume a parental role is unfair and detrimental to his childhood and development. The children's fathers, including myself, are prepared to fulfill our responsibilities, suggesting that if Lynn is unable to care for them due to her illness, alternative arrangements should be explored rather than defaulting to my son's involvement. This situation has led me to consider pursuing full custody to ensure my son can focus on being a kid, enjoying his youth without undue burdens. Moreover, in light of the circumstances, consulting child services for guidance and potentially to reinforce my case for custody might be a prudent step. This isn't about undermining Lynn but ensuring that the children's needs are met appropriately and that my son's rights and well-being are protected. Story 3. This story is titled, "My Girlfriend Rejected My Proposal, so I ended our relationship and kicked her out of the apartment." Hi everyone! Before we dive in, a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and makes sure you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Ethan, 30 male, and I guess you could say I've been going through it lately. So here's the thing. A few weeks ago, I proposed to my girlfriend of 4 years, Brooke, 27 female, and it didn't go as planned. Actually, it went completely sideways. And honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what happened. Let me start with some background. Brooke and I met through mutual friends at this small barbecue. We hit it off right away. Same sense of humor, similar life goals, and she was just easy to talk to. Over the years, we built this life together. We talked about everything. Marriage, kids, our dream house. Brooke would get excited about wedding stuff, even when we weren't actively planning anything. She'd send me links to engagement rings she liked, or point out wedding venues when we drove by. It wasn't constant or over the top, but it was clear she wanted that life with me, or so I thought. Fast forward to this year, our 4th anniversary. I figured, okay, it's time to make it official. I started planning the proposal months in advance because I wanted it to be special, not just for her, but for both of us. I'm not great at this romantic stuff, so I got help from my buddies, Kevin and James. They've been my best friends since college, and they were hyped about the whole thing. We planned everything to the last detail. I booked this resort Brooke had mentioned wanting to visit ages ago. It was a little pricey, but I figured it was worth it. Kevin and James helped me pick out the ring, a simple, classic style because Brooke's not into flashy stuff. And we set up this private dinner at the resort with candles, flowers, the whole 9 yards. Here's the part where it gets a little complicated. I didn't just plan a private moment. Brooke's friends, Chloe and Anna, were in on it too. They were supposed to show up after the proposal with drinks and be part of the celebration. My buddies were going to be there too. It wasn't a huge crowd, but enough to make it feel special. The day of the proposal, everything seemed perfect. Brooke was in a great mood. We spent the day relaxing, and I was nervous but excited. When it was time for dinner, I got dressed up and tried to keep my cool. Brooke looked amazing, and I couldn't stop thinking about how lucky I was. So, we get to the setup. Candles, flowers, soft music playing in the background. I made this little speech about how much she meant to me, and then I got down on one knee. I held up the ring and asked her to marry me. And that's when everything went wrong. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either. She just froze. For what felt like forever. Finally, she said, "Ethan, I need more time." It felt like the vibes got completely wrecked. I couldn't even process what she was saying. Her friends, my friends, everyone was there, and I could feel them all staring at us. I felt embarrassed, confused, and honestly, pretty hurt. Brooke started apologizing right away, saying she wasn't saying no. She just wasn't ready yet, and that she needed more time. But by that point, I wasn't really listening. I was just trying to keep it together and not completely fall apart in front of everyone. Kevin and James tried to keep things light, joking around to ease the tension, but it didn't help. Chloe and Anna looked just as uncomfortable as I felt. Brooke kept apologizing, and I kept nodding, pretending like everything was fine. But inside, I was a mess. We left the dinner early. The car ride back to the hotel was completely silent. I was staring out the window, replaying the whole thing in my head, while Brooke was sitting next to me, probably doing the same. I couldn't even look at her. When we got back to the room, she tried to explain herself again. She said she needed more time to think, that it wasn't about me, and that she just wasn't in the right headspace for a big decision like marriage. But none of it made sense to me. We'd talked about this stuff for years. She knew I was serious about her, and she'd always acted like she was serious about me too. I asked her straight up, "Do you even want to marry me?" She said yes, but she wasn't ready to say yes right now. And honestly, that answer felt like a slap in the face. You either want to marry someone or you don't, right? It shouldn't be that complicated. We barely spoke the rest of the trip. I felt embarrassed, not just for myself, but for involving all our friends. It was supposed to be this beautiful, life-changing moment, and instead, it felt like a total disaster. When we got back home, things didn't get any better. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Was it me? Did I move too fast? Did I miss some kind of sign that she wasn't ready? I started replaying our relationship in my head, overanalyzing every conversation, every moment, looking for something I might have overlooked. Brooke, on the other hand, acted like everything was fine. She'd bring me coffee in the morning, ask me how my day was, and try to make small talk, but it all felt off, like we were pretending nothing had happened. I didn't tell anyone about the proposal right away. Not my parents, not my coworkers, no one. The only people who knew were the ones who were there, and even then, I didn't want to talk about it. I felt like such an idiot for thinking everything was perfect when clearly it wasn't. But I reached out to my sister Jenna. She's always been the bold one in the family, the type to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I figured if anyone could give me some perspective, it'd be her. Little did I know, she was about to make things even more confusing. When I called Jenna, I wasn't even sure how to explain what had happened. It felt embarrassing to admit, like I'd somehow failed. But she could tell something was up as soon as I said, "Hey, you got a minute?" She didn't waste any time, jumping straight to, "What's wrong?" So I told her. All of it. The proposal, Brooke's reaction, the silence in the car afterward, and how awkward things had been since we got back. By the time I finished, I was pacing around my apartment, my heart racing like it had all just happened again. There was this long pause on the other end of the line, and I was bracing myself for Jenna to tell me I was overreacting. Instead, she said, "Ethan, I don't want to freak you out, but what Brooke did, That's kind of a red flag. I stopped pacing. What do you mean? She sighed. Look, when a woman hesitates on a proposal, it's usually not just nerves. There's something else going on. Either she's not sure about you, or there's someone else in the picture. My stomach dropped. Someone else? Are you serious right now? I couldn't believe it. Like, how come she could be thinking of someone else after staying together for 4 years, and I'm being committed and actually proposed to her? I'm not saying she's definitely cheating or anything, Jenna said quickly. But think about it. You've been together for 4 years, Ethan. 4 years. She knew this was coming. It's not like you blindsided her. And if she's not ready now, what's she waiting for? Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I didn't want to believe Brooke could be hiding something like that from me, but I couldn't ignore the way Jenna's explanation made sense. Brooke and I had always been solid, or at least I thought we were. But now I was questioning everything. Maybe I rushed it, I said, trying to defend Brooke, or maybe myself. Maybe she really just needs time to process. Ethan, come on, Jenna said, her voice firm. Do you really believe that? You've been dropping hints for months. You booked a whole trip just to propose. If she wasn't ready, she should have told you before you got down on one knee in front of all those people. Jenna honestly had a point. Brooke had always been straightforward with me about what she wanted. Or at least, she used to be. Lately, though, things had felt different. I started telling Jenna about the little things that had been bothering me. How Brooke had been working late more often. How she'd started going out with her friends more. How her phone was always on silent. I hadn't thought much of it at the time because I trusted her. But now, with Jenna's words in my head, it all seemed suspicious. Ethan, I hate to say this, but it sounds like classic girl code, Jenna said. Girl code? I asked, confused. It's when a girl hesitates because she's keeping her options open, she explained. She's not ready to commit to you because she's not sure you're the only one she wants. I didn't know what to say. The idea of Brooke keeping her options open had me going nuts. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my best friend, my partner, the person I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. The thought of her hiding something like that from me made me feel sick. But at the same time, I couldn't just accuse her of something without proof. What if Jenna was wrong? What if Brooke really was just overwhelmed or scared? I don't know, Jenna, I said finally. It feels wrong to jump to conclusions. I mean, she's never given me a reason not to trust her. Has she, though? Jenna asked. Think about it. Has she been acting differently lately? I thought back to the past few months. The late nights, the weekends away, the guarded phone. It all seemed so obvious now, but at the time I'd brushed it off. I trusted Brooke. I truly loved her. I didn't want to believe she was capable of hurting me like that. Maybe, I admitted. But what am I supposed to do? Go through her phone? Spy on her? I feel that would be so stupid. No, Jenna said firmly. That's not who you are and it's not who you want to be. But you need to pay attention, Ethan. If there's something going on, she'll slip up eventually. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted Jenna to tell me I was overthinking everything, that Brooke just needed time and everything would be fine. But deep down, I knew she was right. Something was off, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. After we hung up, I sat on the couch, staring at the ring I'd planned to give Brooke. It was still in its little velvet box, untouched since that night at the resort. I can't believe I actually thought everything was all good when it clearly wasn't. What made it worse was how Brooke started watching me, like she was trying to read my mood or figure out what I was thinking. Whenever we were in the same room, I could feel her eyes on me. Sometimes she'd ask if I was okay, but it wasn't in a casual way. It felt loaded, like she was fishing for reassurance. At first, I didn't respond much. I was too frustrated and confused to talk about it. But the more she kept trying to gauge how I felt, the angrier I got. It wasn't just that she was asking. It was the way she did it. Like she already knew she'd hurt me and was looking for a way to make herself feel better about it. She'd drop these small, almost apologetic comments like, "You've been quiet lately," or, "I feel like we haven't talked much." Once she even said, "I hate that things feel weird between us." I didn't know how to respond to that. Things didn't feel weird. They were weird. And the fact that she kept tiptoeing around it instead of addressing it directly made me feel worse. It was like she wanted me to fix something she'd broken. The next few days were brutal. Brooke acted like nothing had happened, like we were fine, but I couldn't stop analyzing every little thing she said or did. When she went out with her friends, I wondered if she was really with them. When she came home late from work, I wondered if she'd really been at the office. I hated myself for thinking that way. Brooke had always been so good to me, so supportive and loving. But now, every time I looked at her, I saw doubt. The worst part was not knowing. Not knowing if Jenna was right. Not knowing if Brooke was hiding something. Not knowing if I'd ever be able to trust her again. I feel stuck, like I'm living in this limbo where nothing makes sense anymore. I loved Brooke. but I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong besides that shitty incident. And the longer it goes on, the more it eats away at me. Tell me, guys, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Update 1. Thank you all for your comments. I didn't expect this to blow up. Here's what happened lately. I didn't know that things were only going to get more complicated since my last post. A few days after my conversation with Jenna, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. Girl code sounded like some kind of made-up thing, but Jenna wasn't the type to throw around baseless ideas. And the way she explained it, it stuck in my head like glue. I found myself overanalyzing everything Brooke had done over the last few months. I wasn't proud of it, but I couldn't turn it off. Brooke, on the other hand, acted like nothing had changed. She was still polite, still affectionate in that casual way we'd always been with each other. But there was this invisible wall between us now. We didn't talk about the proposal or the trip, and I wasn't about to bring it up. Instead, I started noticing more. She was glued to her phone more than usual, and whenever I'd casually glance her way, she'd lock the screen or flip it face down. It didn't feel right. I started paying attention to the way she'd hesitate before answering certain questions, how she'd keep her explanations short, almost rushed, when I asked how her day was. But even then, I couldn't be sure. I kept telling myself there were other explanations. Maybe she was embarrassed about the proposal. Maybe she was overwhelmed and didn't know how to deal with it. Maybe I was just being paranoid because of what Jenna had planted in my head. Then Jenna flipped the switch. She texted me. I was at work, pretending to focus on emails, but really just staring at my screen, replaying the last few weeks in my head. The notification popped up. We need to talk about Brooke. I heard something. My stomach sank. Jenna wasn't one for drama or vague messages, so I knew this wasn't going to be good. I stepped out of the office and called her right away. She didn't waste time. I was talking to one of my friends, and Brooke's name came up. Apparently, she's been spending a lot of time with some guy from work. Like, a lot. I didn't say anything at first. My mind was racing, trying to connect dots that hadn't even been there 5 seconds ago. What does that mean? I finally asked. Jenna explained that her friend, who worked in a different department at Brooke's company, had mentioned seeing Brooke out at lunch with this guy more than a few times. Nothing suspicious on the surface, but Jenna's friend thought it was odd, because apparently they looked close. I didn't know what to do with that information. Lunch with a coworker didn't mean anything, right? People go to lunch with coworkers all the time. But Jenna's friend wasn't just some random person. She was reliable, honest. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a coincidence. That night, I tried to act normal around Brooke, but it felt impossible. Every time her phone buzzed, every time she mentioned work, I found myself wondering if she was talking to him, whoever he was. She mentioned a late meeting the next day, and instead of just nodding like I usually did, I felt this knot in my stomach. After Brooke went to bed, I stayed up thinking about everything Jenna had told me. If I confronted Brooke, what was I even going to say? Hey, I heard from my sister's friend that you've been hanging out with some guy from work. Is there something you want to tell me? It sounded ridiculous, like I was grasping at straws, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore it. The next day, I decided to call Jenna again. I needed more context, more details, something concrete to go on. When I asked, she hesitated at first, like she didn't want to make things worse. But eventually, she admitted that her friend had seen Brooke and the guy at a coffee shop after work once. And it wasn't just any coffee shop. It was one Brooke and I used to go to all the time when we first started dating. That hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't proof of anything, but it felt intentional. Like a small piece of our life together had been used for something else, something that didn't include me. I started questioning every decision I'd made in the past few weeks. Should I have paid more attention? Should I have asked more questions? Maybe Jenna's girl code theory wasn't just some random idea. Maybe it was the explanation I didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. By the weekend, I felt like I was losing my grip. Brooke had been distant all week, but not in an obvious way. She still smiled at me, still asked about my day, but there was this detachment, like she was going through the motions. Jenna texted me again on Sunday. You need to talk to her. If she's hiding something, she's not going to admit it unless you push. But I don't know how to push without crossing a line. I don't want to be the guy who accuses his girlfriend of something without evidence. At the same time, I can't keep pretending like everything is fine. I'm in a tough position, but I feel like soon I will make my decision. I'll let you guys updated. Update 2. Hey guys, first off, thank you for all the support and advice on my last post. I've spent the past few days trying to process everything, your perspective, and I decided to confront Brooke like most of you suggested. But let me tell you what happened before that. After a few days since Jenna sent me that text, I'd had enough. The tension in the apartment was suffocating, and I wasn't going to keep it low. Brooke was going through her routines like we were fine, like her brushing off my proposal wasn't the giant red flag that it clearly was. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't just sit there like I was okay with being treated as some backup plan while she figured out her life. I'd spent weeks replaying that moment. Me on one knee, pouring my heart out, and her looking at me like I was asking for a favor instead of committing to a future together. It wasn't just about the hesitation. It was about what it meant. She was still unsure about me. Not even after 4 years. Not after everything we'd built. I mean, how many years does she need to make sure I'm the one? That's ridiculous. And now? She was distant, quiet, and acting like she had no clue what the problem was. That night, after dinner, I sat across from her at the table. She was scrolling on her phone, like she always did, completely checked out. I wasn't going to wait for the right moment. This was the moment. We need to talk, I said, leaning forward. She glanced up, caught off guard. About what? Are you seeing someone else? I asked flat out. Her jaw dropped. She set her phone down slowly, like she was trying to buy time. What are you talking about? Why would you even ask me that? Because nothing about us feels right anymore, I said, my tone sharp. You've been distant for weeks. You shut me out after the proposal, and now it feels like you're just waiting for something better, or someone better. And if that's what's happening, I need to know. Her face hardened. You really think I'd cheat on you? Maybe not outright, I said, folding my arms. But let's not act like this coworker of yours hasn't come up. Jenna told me about the coffee shop. You didn't tell me you were spending time with him? Why's that? Brooke let out a sharp breath, like she was trying to keep her composure. Because it's not a big deal, she said. We're working on a project together. That's all it is. Then why hide it? I asked, leaning forward. Why keep it a secret if it's so innocent? I wasn't hiding it, she snapped. I just didn't think you needed to know every detail of my work life. That's not the point, Brooke, I said, my voice rising. The point is, you've been acting like I'm the only one fighting for this relationship, and I'm done with it. If this guy isn't a big deal, fine. But you didn't say yes to my proposal. You asked for more time. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? How it felt to stand there, thinking I'd planned this perfect moment, only for you to tell me you weren't ready? I wasn't ready, she said, her voice defensive. And I told you that. It's not because of someone else. It's because I needed to think. Think about what? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're thinking about whether or not you even want to be with me. And if that's the case, just say it. Don't string me along while you figure out your life. I'm not stringing you along, she said. I've been trying to sort through everything in my head, but you're making this into something it's not. Don't gaslight me, I said, my voice cold. You've been pulling away from me for weeks. And if it's not because of this guy, then what is it? Because I'm tired of the guessing games. Brooke stood up, crossing her arms. You want to know why I hesitated? She said. Fine. I hesitated because marriage is a big deal. Because it's permanent. And I wasn't sure I was ready to make that commitment. Not because of you, not because of anyone else. Because of me. Her words hit me, but they didn't land the way she probably thought they would. I stood up too, meeting her gaze. So, what you're saying is, after 4 years, you're still not sure about me? That's not what I'm saying, she said quickly. I love you, Ethan. I do. But I wasn't ready for that moment. Well, I was, I said, my tone sharp. And I thought we were on the same page. I wouldn't have asked you if I thought for a second that you didn't feel the same way. It took me only 6 months to be sure about you, but I gave it more time for you to feel ready. But now I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning if you even see a future with me, or if I'm just the guy you're settling for while you figure out your options. Brooke's face fell, but I wasn't about to back down. You've made me feel like I'm not enough, I continued. Like I'm just here to fill a void until you decide what you really want. And I can't live like that, Brooke. I deserve better. I never meant to make you feel that way, she said quietly. But you did, I said. And now I have to decide if I can even stay in this relationship, knowing that I'm not your first choice. Her eyes widened slightly, and for the first time, I saw real fear in them. Ethan, you are my choice. I've just been confused, I cut her off. Yeah, I get it. But here's the thing. I'm not confused. I know what I want. I want someone who's sure about me, someone who doesn't need time to decide if I'm worth committing to. And if you can't be that person, then I don't know what we're doing here. Brooke didn't respond. She just stood there, her expression a mix of guilt and frustration. The silence stretched between us, heavy and unrelenting. Finally, I stepped back. I'm going to give you some time to think, I said. But I'm not going to wait forever. If you can't give me a real answer soon, an answer that tells me you're all in, then I'm done. With that, I left the room, heading to the bedroom to clear my mind. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I'd taken control of the situation. Whether Brooke stayed or not, I wasn't going to keep feeling like a second option. Whatever is going to happen next, it was going to be on my terms. Final update. Hey guys, Thought of giving you an update since most of you are asking what did I do. Well, honestly, I wasn't proud of how heated things got. But at the same time, I didn't regret saying what I needed to say. For weeks, hell, maybe months, I'd been bottling up all this frustration and confusion. The proposal, the hesitation, her distance afterward, and now this shadow of doubt hovering over us. I couldn't ignore it anymore, and asking her directly about the coworker had been inevitable. The thing that bothered me the most wasn't even her vague answer about him. It was her overall hesitation about us, about marriage, about everything. I wasn't asking her to marry me tomorrow. I just needed to know that we were heading in the same direction. Her saying she wasn't ready felt like she wasn't ready for me. After sitting there for a while, I decided I needed to clear my head. I didn't want to call Jenna. I needed to hear from someone else. So I texted Kevin since he was in the proposal and knew what happened. Hey, can we talk? Need some advice? Kevin was one of those friends who didn't sugarcoat things, and that's what I needed right now. When he called me a few minutes later, I stepped out onto the balcony to avoid waking Brooke, even though I doubted she was sleeping after our fight. I filled him in on everything: Brooke's hesitation after the proposal, her recent distance, and the conversation we'd just had. Kevin let me vent without interrupting, which was exactly what I needed. When I finally finished, he sighed. Ethan, I'm going to be honest with you. You're doing the right thing by standing up for yourself. If she's not sure about you after 4 years, that's a problem. I get that marriage is a big step, but she should at least want to take that step with you. The fact that she's hesitating, that's not something you can just ignore. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, I know, but it's hard. I don't want to just throw away everything we've built, you know? I get it, he said, but you also don't want to spend years with someone who's not all in. You deserve better than that. I ended the call and walked back into the living room. Brooke was still sitting on the couch, clutching a blanket like it was her shield against what was coming. Her phone was still untouched on the table, the light from the TV flickering over her face. She looked up as I walked in, her eyes darting to me nervously. For weeks, I'd been holding back, giving her space, trying to understand her hesitation. But after everything, it was clear. I couldn't keep doing this. We need to talk, I said. She nodded, her hands twisting the edge of the blanket. I know, she said softly. I sat down trying to be reasonable. Brooke, I started, I've been patient. I've been giving you time, trying to figure out what's going on with us. But I'm at my limit. You've been distant ever since the proposal. I've tried to understand. I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. But it feels like you're not even trying anymore. She didn't say anything, her eyes glued to the blanket in her lap. I need to know, I continued, my voice tightening. Are you in this or not? Because I can't keep waking up every day wondering if you're just waiting for a better option to come along. It's not like that, she said quickly, looking up at me. Then what is it like, Brooke? I shot back. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels a hell of a lot like I'm being strung along while you figure out your life. And I can't do that anymore. I won't. Ethan, she said. I don't know how to say this. Just say it, I said, my tone sharp. Whatever it is, just say it for God's sake. I'm done with the games. So she hit me with, I've been seeing someone, she admitted, her words barely audible. I froze. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. But then the weight of her words hit me like a sledgehammer. What? I said. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with guilt and tears. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said quickly. It happened. And I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. At that point, I lost it. There was no way I'm taking this calmly. Didn't want to hurt me? I repeated, my voice rising. You didn't want to hurt me. So you decided to sneak around behind my back instead? And playing with me until I kneel down and propose only for you to say I'm not sure? Do you even hear yourself, Brooke? I'm not with him, she said desperately. I'm not sure about him either. That's the problem. I don't know what I want, Ethan. You don't know what you want? I said, standing up abruptly. After 4 years? After everything we've built together? You don't know what you want? Do you have any idea how pathetic that sounds? She flinched, but I didn't care. I was done holding back. I was ready to spend my life with you, I continued, my voice shaking with anger. I was ready to build a future with you. And while I was planning our next steps, you were out not being sure about someone else? Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for me? I didn't mean for it to get this far, she said, tears streaming down her face now. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But it did, I said, cutting her off. You let it happen. And then you sat here day after day, pretending like everything was fine while you ripped this relationship apart behind my back. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. Sorry? I said bitterly. You're sorry? Do you think that changes anything? Do you think that fixes the fact that you've been lying to me? That you've been lying to yourself? She didn't respond, just sat there shaking. I can't do this anymore, I said, my tone colder now. You're not sure about him? Fine. But the fact that you were even in a position to make that comparison tells me everything I need to know about where we stand. Ethan, please, she said, standing up now, reaching toward me. We can work through this. I'll stop seeing him. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. No, Brooke, I said firmly, stepping back. You don't get to fix this. You don't get to sit here and decide now, after everything, that I'm the one you want. Her face crumpled, but I didn't let it sway me. Get out from my house, I said, my voice like steel. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. Ethan, please don't do this. You did this, I said, pointing at her. You made this choice the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you. You made this choice the moment you let someone else into our relationship. So don't stand here and act like I'm the bad guy. Pack your things and go. She hesitated, but when she saw the resolve in my face, she nodded slowly. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the bedroom. I stood there, listening as she packed her things, my heart heavy but resolute. When she finally walked out the door, she paused, looking at me one last time. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't respond. I just closed the door behind her, locking it and leaning against it as the weight of everything settled over me. The apartment was quiet now, but for the first time in weeks, the silence felt like peace. That night she left my life, I called my Jenna, just to assure her it was not the coworker that we were debating. It was another guy. Writing this now seems pathetic and laughable. Anyway, I told her everything. How Brooke admitted to seeing someone else, but claimed it wasn't serious. And how I couldn't stay in a relationship with someone who treated me like an option. Jenna was shocked at the beginning, but also supportive. You did the right thing. You deserve better. A few days later, I got a call from Brooke's sister, Lila. She wanted to know what happened. I explained everything. Her hesitation at the proposal, her confession, and my decision to end things. To my surprise, Lila said, I'm sorry, Ethan. You didn't deserve that. Brooke's been lost lately, and I hope she figures herself out. But you made the right choice. Since then, I've been focusing on myself. I sold that doomed engagement ring. It felt like holding on to a very bad memory in my life, so there was no need for it. The money's in savings now. A reminder to invest in my future instead of clinging to the past. It hasn't been easy. Some days, I replay everything in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I know this wasn't about me. Brooke's hesitation and choices were hers, not a reflection of my worth. I'm not ready to date again yet, but that's okay. For now, I'm taking time to heal and rebuild. To everyone who's been following my story, thank you. Your advice and support gave me the strength to stand up for myself. If you're in a similar situation, trust your instincts. You deserve someone who's all in, no doubts, no hesitation. It's hard to let go, but sometimes it's the only way forward. Life isn't perfect, but I'm learning to embrace the uncertainty, one day at a time. Here's to new beginnings. Story 4. My parents threw me out at 16 because my sister framed me for. Hey Reddit, when I was 16, my family kicked me out because of something my sister did. Nobody believed me, and I had to fight just to survive. What happened after changed everything. I, Alex, 17 male, 16 at the time all this happened. And if you asked my family to describe me back then, they'd probably just say, the problem. My dad was one of those guys who thought respect was a one-way street. You give it to him, no questions asked, or you get the belt of his voice, and sometimes his actual belt. My mom followed his lead like it was gospel. And then there was Lily, my sister, 2 years younger, and somehow the perfect child. She could set the kitchen on fire trying to make popcorn, and my parents would call it a learning experience. I forget to mow the lawn once, and I'm irresponsible and going nowhere in life. That's how it always was. Everything she did was excused. Everything I did was evidence that I was destined to screw up. If she aced a test, it was because she was hardworking and smart. If I aced a test, it was because I got lucky. She was the golden child, and I was the one dragging the family down. I always thought it was unfair, but I never expected her to take it to the level she did that night. It started normal. I was in my room on my old laptop, messing with some music downloads and half-assing homework. It was late, maybe past 11. Then my door flew open so hard it smacked the wall, and both my parents stormed in like I had just set off an alarm. My mom's face was red, Dad's veins popping in his forehead, and behind them, Lily, fake crying so hard she should have won an award for it. He stole it! I saw him take it from Dad's wallet, she wailed, pointing right at me. What? I sat up straight, confused as hell. Dad's already stomping across the room, checking around like he's on some investigation show. Then, he grabs my pillow, lifts it, and there it was. Crumpled bills shoved under it, maybe around $400 to $500. I swear my stomach dropped right through the floor. I told you, Lily screeched, crocodile tears running down her cheeks. My brain couldn't even process. I hadn't touched his wallet. I hadn't even been near it. But before I could get words out, Dad was in my face, jabbing a finger at my chest. You embarrassed this family for the last damn time. You think we didn't notice things missing before? You think we're stupid? I stood up quick, shaking my head. That's not mine. She planted it. She's lying. Why would I take money when I've been saving every dollar I get from babysitting and mowing lawns? Ask Mrs. Clark next door. Enough! He barked so loud it rattled my window. A liar and a thief. You've made this house a joke. I looked at Mom for backup, but she didn't even look me in the eye. She repeated whatever Dad said. No questions, like it was law. Meanwhile, Lily's standing behind them, head bowed like some saint. But I caught the smirk. That little flicker of satisfaction on her face when Dad started ripping my room apart, shoving my stuff into a trash bag like I was some stray they were dumping. Dad, please! It's not true, I shouted, my voice breaking. But it didn't matter. He yanked my backpack out of the corner, tossed it on the bed, and started filling it with random clothes. Mom started to say something, but one glare from Dad shut her up. Lily sniffled dramatically. I'm scared to even share a house with him. He gets so angry. What if he hurt me? That cut deeper than anything. I spun toward her, heart pounding. What are you talking about? I've never laid a hand on you. But the damage was done. Dad's jaw clenched. That's it. Out. Now. They shoved the bags into my arms, dragged me down the hallway while Lily trailed behind, whispering, I told you they'd believe me. When we hit the front door, Dad yanked it open. The night air hit me like ice. I was barefoot, still in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Dad shoved me onto the porch so hard I stumbled. My sneakers were still by the door, so I grabbed them before he could slam it shut. You don't come back here. Not until you're ready to admit what you did and apologize to your sister, he said, voice low and final. I didn't do anything, I shouted, my throat raw. She's lying to you. She set me up. Don't you dare talk about her like that, Dad snapped. She's been nothing but good to this family. You're jealous, Alex. Jealous and bitter. The door slammed shut, shaking the glass panes. For a second, I just stood there, trash bag slipping from my arms, waiting for it to swing open again. For someone to realize they'd just kicked out their own kid over some tears and planted cash. It never did. I sat down on the porch steps, shivering, staring out at the quiet street. I wasn't just grounded. I wasn't just in trouble. I was out. Exiled. 16 years old. Standing outside my own house with nothing but a trash bag of clothes and a backpack. Knowing my sister had won. She had their trust. Their love. Their blind loyalty. And me? I was disposable. I remember hugging that trash bag like it was some kind of lifeline. My chest so tight I could barely breathe. Part of me wanted to run back inside and pound on the door until they listened. Another part knew it wouldn't matter. They'd made their choice. And as I finally stepped off that porch and started walking into the night, one thought burned hotter than all the others. They'd rather believe her lies than my truth. And that's when I realized I wasn't just the black sheep. I was already cut out of the herd. That first night, I walked around the block until my legs hurt. I didn't even know where I was going. It was late, cold, and I was carrying a trash bag like some runaway. I thought about crashing in the park, but the benches were soaked from sprinklers. Then it hit me. Rachel lived a few blocks over. She'd been my best friend since middle school, so I figured maybe her family would let me stay a night. Her eyes went wide when she saw me standing there in sweatpants, holding a trash bag. She let me in quick, whispered questions, and I told her they kicked me out. She didn't even look surprised, just sad. She gave me a blanket on the floor and some leftover pizza, and I slept harder than I had in weeks. Her mom wasn't as forgiving. The next morning, she pulled me aside. She wasn't cruel, just straight with me. Alex, you can stay a couple nights, but I can't afford another mouth. You'll need to figure something out. I nodded, pretending it was fine, but my stomach twisted. By the third night, Rachel's mom drove me to school early and said I couldn't come back. That was it. I shoved my trash bag in my locker and pretended like I had somewhere else to be. From then on, I started couch hopping. A classmate let me crash on their sofa for a night, another let me stay in their basement, but it was always just for tonight. People didn't want to deal with the drama of my family. After about a week, I ran out of options. That's when I started sleeping wherever I could. Behind the gas station, in the corner near the dumpsters where the light didn't reach. Sometimes in the library if I timed it right and hid until closing, but the security guard caught me after a couple nights and kicked me out. I tried the school bathroom once, locking myself in a stall, But someone came in, saw my bag, and word spread fast. The hunger was worse than the cold. I had maybe 40 bucks saved from mowing lawns and babysitting. That money disappeared fast on cheap burgers and vending machine snacks. After that, I skipped meals or just filled up on water fountains. My stomach growled so loud in class, I'd get looks. School didn't make anything easier. Lily worked fast. By the end of the first week, everybody had heard the story. How I stole money from my dad, how I got kicked out. She made it sound like I was some junkie in training. Kids pulled their backpacks closer when I sat near them. Teachers gave me those long stares, the kind that said they'd already been warned about me. In math class, a girl moved her notebook when I sat down. "Sorry, I don't want my stuff stolen," she said under her breath, just loud enough for everyone to hear. The whole row snickered. I wanted to yell, but I knew it wouldn't matter. One day in the hallway, a guy from the basketball team, Marcus, shouldered me on purpose and said, "Watch your hands, thief." I shoved him back out of instinct, and for a second I thought we were going to swing. A teacher broke it up, but I got the warning, not him. "One more incident, Alex, and you're suspended." Everywhere I went, it was the same. Lily shining, me sinking. She made sure to do it loud enough so everyone knew she was responsible with money, unlike some people. I swear she'd catch my eye across the cafeteria sometimes, give me this tiny smirk, then go right back to acting sweet in front of her friends. She was enjoying every second of it. By the second week, I was a ghost in my own school. Nobody wanted me around. I sat alone, ate alone when I even had food, and tried to act like I didn't care. But inside, it was eating me alive. Nights were the worst. I'd curl up with my bag, hoodie over my face, praying cops wouldn't hassle me or some drunk wouldn't wander by. The cold concrete made my back ache. My shoes stank from walking miles every day just to waste time. And all I could think was, my own family did this to me. Not strangers, not enemies, my sister. One night, I tried to sneak into the library again. I thought if I hid better, maybe they wouldn't notice. I tucked myself behind a row of shelves, used my bag as a pillow. Around midnight, the guard's flashlight hit me right in the eyes. He shook his head. "You can't stay here, kid." He walked me out the side door like I was a trespasser. I didn't know where to go, and for the first time, the thought hit me. Maybe this was exactly what they wanted. Maybe they didn't want me alive anymore. I ended up behind the gas station again, curled up near the dumpsters. I closed my eyes, but all I saw was Lily's smug little face, fake crying while my parents shoved me out the door. She'd won, at least for now. I kept telling myself maybe somebody, anybody, would finally listen. Like maybe the adults at school weren't completely blind, or maybe one of my relatives would actually have a backbone. I was wrong. It started with my dad finding me. I don't know how he knew where I was, maybe Lily told him. Maybe he just drove around until he spotted me. I was sitting on a park bench with my hoodie pulled tight when his car headlights hit me. He pulled up so fast I thought he was about to run me over. "Get in the car!" he barked, slamming the door behind him. I stayed planted on the bench. My stomach tightened just hearing his voice. "Now!" he snapped. I shook my head. "Not unless you're ready to admit Lily lied." His face twisted like I'd spit in it. "Don't you dare talk about your sister like that. She's been through enough because of you." "Through enough?" I shot back. "She planted the money. She framed me, and you just believed her." His jaw tightened. He stepped closer, pointing a finger at me like it was a weapon. "You're going to come home. You're going to admit what you did, and you're going to apologize. Or I'll call the police and tell them you've been stealing from stores, begging for money on the street. Do you understand me?" I gripped my bag tighter. "I'm not coming home just to be treated like garbage again. You can call whoever you want, but I'm not admitting to something I didn't do." For a second, I thought he was going to swing at me. His fists curled, his face red. But then he spun around, stormed back to the car, and peeled off, leaving me sitting there shaking. That was the moment it sank in. He didn't want the truth. He just wanted control. The next day at school, I tried the counselor. I figured, hey, maybe they'll believe me if I just lay it all out. I sat in that office with my heart pounding, told her everything. How Lily planted the money, how she bragged about it, how my parents threw me out. She listened, nodding with that blank look counselors have. When I finished, she sighed. "Alex, I understand you're under a lot of stress. But accusing your sister without evidence isn't going to help. Your parents already spoke to us. They're concerned about your behavior. They said you've been unstable." Unstable. That word hit harder than anything, like I was some ticking bomb instead of a kid sleeping behind gas stations. "I'm telling the truth," I said, voice shaking. She just shook her head. "Focus on your schoolwork." The best way to show your family you're trustworthy is through your actions. So basically, suck it up. That's what she meant. I tried one more angle. I called my aunt from a payphone outside the grocery store. She picked up, cheerful until she heard my voice. The second I explained what happened, her tone shifted. Alex, this isn't something I can get involved in. Your parents are doing what they think is best. Maybe if you just said sorry. I hung up before she could finish. My own blood didn't want to touch this mess. Everyone wanted the easy version of the story. Alex is a screw-up. Lily's perfect. Case closed. That night, I sat outside the gas station, back against the wall, sipping water I'd filled in the bathroom sink just to feel something in my stomach. The neon sign buzzed overhead. Cars rolled in and out, and I was just sitting there, invisible. Then I heard the voice I hated most. Wow, didn't think you'd last this long out here. I looked up, and there she was, Lily, holding a soda, casual as hell, like she was just strolling by to say hi. I glared. Why are you here? She smirked. Curious, I guess. Wanted to see how long it would take before you came crawling back. My fists clenched. Why are you doing this to me? You think you had it rough? Try being me. Mom and Dad never let me slip, not once. Every grade, every chore, every little thing I did was compared to you. If I messed up, it was, don't be like your brother. That's all I ever heard. I frowned, but she kept going, her voice low and steady. Now, for once, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to prove anything. All I have to do is not screw up like you. And honestly, that's easy. I'm not giving that up. You're sick, I muttered. Her grin widened. What's really sick is how easy it was. Everyone already thought you were the screw-up. I just gave them proof. I wanted to scream, to shove her, something. But she leaned closer, her voice dropping. And if you keep pushing it, if you keep running your mouth about me, I'll make up something even worse. And then you won't just be homeless. You'll be locked up. The way she said it, calm, confident, made my skin crawl. She wasn't bluffing. She was already plotting her next move. She walked off like she hadn't just threatened to nuke what little I had left. And sitting there in the glow of that gas station sign, it finally hit me. She wasn't just trying to make me look bad. She was out to erase me completely. That thought stuck in my head for days. Every time I tried to sleep behind the gas station or wandered around to burn daylight, it replayed in my head like an echo. Lily wasn't just happy I was gone. She wanted me erased, like I never existed. By the third week, I was sinking lower than I thought possible. My cash was gone, my phone was dead, and I hadn't had a real meal in 2 days. I carried that trash bag everywhere. School, bus stops, parking lots. It wasn't even clothes anymore. It was like a sign around my neck. Homeless loser. One night, I tried hiding in the school library again. I thought if I tucked myself deeper behind the shelves, maybe I'd get away with it. Around midnight, a flashlight beam hit me square in the face. Security grabbed my arm and marched me out. I already told you, you can't sleep here, kid. Try this one more time and I'll report you. Then you'll be suspended, he said, shaking his head. It started pouring not long after. I walked miles, rain soaking through my hoodie, my shoes squishing with every step. My trash bag got so wet the plastic tore, and half my clothes spilled onto the sidewalk. I scooped them up anyway, hugging the bag tight. Even though everything smelled like mildew, I ended up under the awning of a closed laundromat. My stomach cramped from hunger, the kind that made you lightheaded. That was my breaking point. I sat there shaking, thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm just going to disappear out here, and nobody's going to care. That's when Rachel showed up. She came jogging up with an umbrella, hair plastered to her forehead, out of breath like she'd been searching. Alex, why didn't you answer your phone? I've been looking for you everywhere. My phone's dead, I muttered. Truth was, I hadn't had a charger in weeks. She crouched down next to me, ignoring the puddles soaking her jeans. You look awful. Thanks, I said, trying to laugh, but my voice cracked. She shoved a crumpled envelope into my hand. Here, take it. I frowned. What is it? Just open it. Inside was maybe $60, mostly small bills. My throat tightened. Rachel, I can't. You can. She cut me off. It's my allowance. I don't need it. You do. I couldn't even speak. I just nodded, clutching it like it was the most valuable thing in the world. She looked around, lowered her voice. There's something else. Lily bragged at a party. I heard her. She told people she planted the money, that she set you up. My head snapped toward her. She admitted it? Yeah, but nobody believed her. They thought she was showing off. Some even said, even if it was true, you probably deserved it. It was like getting kicked in the chest. Deserved it. That's what people thought of me. I stood up, pacing under the awning. If I can get someone to back me up, they won't, Rachel said quietly. She's too popular. Nobody wants to cross her. They all think you're already a lost cause. That silence between us said everything. It wasn't just my parents. Everyone had written me off. That night, I sat in that laundromat doorway with Rachel's cash in my pocket, dripping wet, clothes stinking, my stomach clawing at me. I stared at the street, and something inside me hardened. If nobody was going to stand up for me, then I'd have to do it myself. That evening, after cleaning up in a gas station bathroom, I shouldered my soggy trash bag and started walking. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I was just done. When I turned onto our street, my chest tightened. The house looked the same as always. White siding, flower pots on the porch, the place I grew up in. Except now, it wasn't mine anymore. I stood there for a long minute, rain dripping off my hood, before I started up the driveway. I was going to walk through that door and force them to hear me, whether they liked it or not. My fist hit the door 3 times, loud enough that my knuckles stung. For a second, nothing. Then footsteps. The door creaked open, and there was Lily, like she'd been waiting. Her eyebrows shot up, then curved into a smirk. "Well, look who crawled back," she said. I shoved past her before she could block me. My wet shoes squeaked on the hardwood. "I'm not here to stay. I'm here to talk." From the living room, my mom's voice rang out. "Alex?" A second later, she appeared, drying her hands on a dish towel. Dad followed, arms crossed, his face already red. "Out. Now." "No," I said, chest heaving. "You're gonna hear me this time. You've believed her lies long enough. Tonight, you're gonna hear mine." Dad stepped forward, towering over me. "Watch your tone. You don't get to barge into this house and—" "Watch my tone?" I snapped, louder than I meant. "You threw me out with a trash bag because Lily cried and waved a couple bills around? You didn't even ask for my side. Not once. Because we know you," Dad shot back, voice sharp. "You've always been reckless, Alex. Always jealous." Dad's face tightened, but I kept going, heat rising in my chest. "Jealous? Let's talk about that. Remember when she copied my science project? Teacher called home, and you punished me for making her cheat. She cried, and you believed her. Always the same story. She's the angel. I'm the screw-up. Doesn't matter what actually happened." Dad's jaw clenched. For a split second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. He knew I was right. He knew it. But instead of admitting it, he doubled down. He stepped in close, the smell of aftershave and anger hitting me. "Don't you stand here and disrespect your family. You've done nothing but drag this house down since you were a teenager. You want me to admit we favored her? Fine, we did. Because she earned it. She keeps her grades up, helps your mother, stays out of trouble. You? You can't even keep a roof over your head." The words hit harder than a punch. My fists curled, but I forced myself to stay upright. "I can't keep a roof because you threw me out. Because she framed me, and you believed her without a second thought." Behind him, Lily leaned against the wall, sipping from a glass of water like she was watching a TV show. Smirk plastered across her face. I turned toward her. "Go on. Swear right now you didn't plant that money. Look me in the eye and swear it." She tilted her head, lips twitching like she was holding back a laugh. "Sure, I swear," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I pointed at her, voice breaking. "You hear that? You can't even take her seriously. She's lying to your faces, and you're still falling for it." Dad's face went red, his fists curling again. Then, out of nowhere, he snatched a glass off the table and hurled it at me. His aim was off, but it exploded against the wall right next to my head. Shards rained down, slicing my arm and cheek. Blood trickled down, but all he did was point at the door, his voice low and shaking with rage. "Get out! Before I call the cops and tell them you broke in. You want to keep making scenes? Fine. You can do it from a jail cell." I steadied myself, breath ragged, my chest pounding. My throat burned, but I refused to let the tears show. "You've made your choice," I said, voice low. "You picked her. You always pick her. One day you're going to see her for what she is. And when that happens, don't come looking for me." The room went silent except for Lily's soft chuckle. "Wow," she said under her breath, shaking her head. "Drama much?" I grabbed my bag off the floor, turned toward the door. Every step felt heavy, like I was dragging chains. But I didn't stop. At the doorway, I spun back once more, staring at all of them. My parents frozen, Lily smirking. "You think I'm the problem? Fine. But when the truth blows up in your faces, remember this moment. Remember I warned you." Then I yanked the door open, stepped into the night, and slammed it shut behind me. The cool air slapped me in the face, mixing with the sting of the shallow cuts running down my arm. I walked fast, jaw tight, like maybe if I put enough distance between me and that house, I could breathe again. I made it halfway down the block before I heard the footsteps. Quick, uneven, like someone was jogging to catch up. Wait up, bro! I spun around, heart hammering, and there she was, Lily, jogging after me, calm as ever, her face glowing in the dim light from the street lamp. She was smiling, like this was a game to her, like Dad hadn't just tried to smash me with a glass seconds earlier. As Lily stepped onto the porch, I thought I heard the screen door creak behind her, but I was too focused on her smug grin to care. My stomach flipped. "What do you want now?" I barked, my voice harsher than I intended. She slowed to a walk, shoving her hands into her hoodie pocket, posture relaxed, like she was out for a late stroll. Relax. I just wanted to see how far you'd actually take this. I glared at her, my fists curling tight even as my arms stung from the cuts. Farther than you think. I'm done letting you run the show. Her grin widened, her teeth catching in the glow of the streetlight. You still don't get it, do you? Nobody's ever going to believe you. You can scream, cry, bleed all over the sidewalk. It won't matter. To them, you'll always be the screw-up. And I'll always be the one they're proud of. Proud? I spat, shaking my head. You destroyed me. Destroyed you? She echoed, tilting her head like I'd said something funny. Then her voice dropped lower, crueler. I didn't destroy you. I just gave them proof of what they already believed. That was the smartest thing I've ever done. My stomach twisted. My chest tightened. Say it again, I demanded, stepping closer. She leaned in, her voice a whisper, like she wanted to savor every word. I framed you. I planted the money, and I'd do it again. Watching you beg while I win? That's the best part. The words cut through me like a blade. I could practically hear the blood rushing in my ears, feel every drop running down my arm from where the glass shards had torn into me. And then another voice broke the silence. Excuse me? Both of us froze like statues. At the edge of the porch steps stood Mom. Her face was pale, her arms crossed tight against her chest. She must have followed Lily out without either of us noticing. For once, her eyes weren't filled with anger at me. They were locked on Lily. What did you just say? Mom asked, her tone sharp, like she didn't even recognize the daughter in front of her. Lily stiffened, the smirk sliding right off her face. Mom, it was nothing. He's twisting it. Don't lie to me, Mom snapped, stepping down onto the walkway. Her voice shook, but her stare was deadly serious. I heard you. You admitted it. You said you planted the money. For the first time in weeks, I felt something crack open inside me. A tiny sliver of hope. My chest tightened, words tumbling out before I could stop them. You heard her, Mom. You finally heard her. Lily's mouth opened, then closed again. No excuses, no fake tears, no quick spin of the story. She was rattled. The screen door banged against the frame, and Dad stormed onto the porch. His voice carried down the yard. What's going on? Mom spun to face him, her hands shaking. She admitted it, James. She just admitted she framed Alex. Dad blinked, his face draining of color. His steps slowed as he reached the bottom of the porch, like maybe he wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer. He turned to Lily, his jaw set. Is that true? Lily's lips trembled. She looked between me, Mom, and Dad, panic flickering in her eyes. Her hands fidgeted inside her hoodie pocket, nails scratching at the fabric. She opened her mouth like she might deny it again, but then her face twisted, and the words shot out like venom. So what if I did? I had to. You two always leaned on me to be the perfect one, the example. I couldn't risk him screwing that up, so I took care of it. I made sure he was the one you gave up on. Her voice cracked on the last words, but the damage was already done. The silence that followed was so heavy, it made the air feel thick. Mom staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh my God! Tears spilled down her cheeks, her body shaking like she'd just been sucker punched. Dad's jaw tightened, his fist curling again. Not at me this time, but at her. His face was red, eyes hard, like he was staring at a stranger in his own house. You ruined your brother's life, Mom whispered, voice raw. You threw me out, I said, my throat burning. You believed her over me. You tossed me in the street with nothing because she cried and pointed her finger. And now you hear the truth, and it's too late. Lily crossed her arms, trying to mask the cracks in her voice with fake confidence. Don't act like you're some victim. You were always the mistake. I just made sure everyone else finally saw it. Her words hit like another glass shattering against my skin. I clenched my fist tighter, Not because I wanted to hit her, but because every bone in my body wanted to stop myself from collapsing. The silence stretched. Mom sobbed openly. Dad just stared, gutted, like the ground had been ripped out from under him. And me? I stood there in the street, bleeding, exhausted, but finally, vindicated. They knew the truth now, but it didn't change the fact that they'd chosen her over me when it mattered most. It was too late to fix the damage. The yard went dead silent after Lily's confession. Mom was frozen, tears running down her cheeks. Dad looked like someone had knocked the wind out of him. Lily tried to cross her arms and look tough, but her hands shook. For once, her little act didn't land. I stepped forward, dried streaks of blood on my arm where the glass shards cut me. My voice was raw but steady. You don't just get to stand here and act shocked. You ruined me. You tossed me out with nothing. Let the whole neighborhood think I was a thief, because it was easier to believe her fake tears than your own son. You don't fix that with a couple words. You're going to fix it the right way. Dad's head snapped toward me like he couldn't believe I was still talking. Watch your tone. No, I said flatly. You don't get to tell me how to talk anymore. You lost that when you threw me out. If you want me to even think about stepping back in that house, you're going to clear my name. Publicly. Mom blinked through her tears. Publicly? I nodded. You're going to write a post. On Facebook, on the church page, in the family group chat. I don't care where. You're going to tell everyone the truth. That I never stole. That you spoiled Lily and let her lies destroy me. You're going to admit it for everyone to see. Otherwise, I'll do it myself. And trust me, I'll include everything, including how Dad threw a glass at me tonight. Dad's face flushed red. We don't air family business online. I laughed bitterly. You already did when you threw me in the street with a trash bag. You let Lily's story run wild at school, at church, with neighbors. You were fine letting everyone whisper about me. Now you're going to be fine undoing it. Mom's sobs grew harder. She turned toward Dad, voice breaking. James, he's right. We did this. We let it happen. She waited for him to answer, like she always did. But he stayed frozen, fists tight, no words coming out. For the first time, his silence wasn't protecting her. It was dragging her down with him. All my life, Mom had followed Dad's lead like it was gospel. Every punishment, every rule, every word he said, she repeated it. But tonight, his silence wasn't enough. He was losing control, and she knew it. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. If you won't say it, James, she whispered, then I will. Dad's glare shot through her, like she'd betrayed him. But she didn't stop. Her thumbs hovered over the screen, trembling. Tell me what to write, she said to me. Lily's head jerked toward her. What? Mom, you can't. Quiet, Mom snapped, her voice suddenly sharp. You did this. You brought us here. I walked closer, heart pounding, and dictated slowly, we need to apologize publicly. Our son Alex was wrongly accused of stealing. The truth is, our daughter Lily framed him, and we believed her. We spoiled her, protected her, and let her lies destroy his reputation. We failed as parents, and Alex deserves to be seen for who he really is, not the scapegoat we made him. Mom typed every word, her hands trembling. Dad stood stiff, face hard as stone, but he didn't stop her. She hit post. The words were out there. The damage couldn't be undone. Within minutes, her phone buzzed with notifications. Comments poured in, from relatives, from church people, even neighbors. We didn't know. So sorry, Alex. Takes guts to admit this. Dad's face went pale as more and more piled up. His iron control was gone, and he knew it. Lily snapped. You just ruined my life, she screamed. Everyone's going to hate me now? Dad rounded on her, his voice low and dangerous. No, Lily. You ruined your own life. Her face crumpled for the first time. No smirk, no fake tears, just panic. I stood there, bleeding and exhausted, but lighter than I'd felt in months. You wanted me gone, Lily. You wanted me erased. Now it's your mask that's erased. Everyone knows who you are. She glared at me, but her voice shook. You think they'll ever forgive you? You'll always be the one who caused drama. I stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. No, I'll be the one who survived it. You'll be the liar who got caught. Silence hung heavy, broken only by Mom's muffled sobs and the constant pinging of her phone. Dad looked 10 years older in that moment. And Lily? She finally looked small. I slung my bag over my shoulder and headed toward the porch. I'm taking back my bed. You're not doing me a favor. You owe me. You threw me out. Now you're going to feed me. Give me a roof and live with what you did. Nobody argued. Mom and Dad just stood there, hollow. They didn't try to block me this time. Not after the confession, not after the post went public, not after their precious control slipped away. For once, nobody had the guts to stop me. Inside, the house felt foreign, like I was stepping into someone else's place. But I wasn't a guest. Not anymore. I'd forced the truth into the light. I'd taken back what they stole. As I set my trash bag down by the stairs, I turned to see them all standing there. Mom hollow-eyed, Dad grim, Lily seething. "You wanted a perfect daughter so badly you turned me into the villain," I said, voice low but steady. "Tonight you told the world the truth. Don't think that fixes it. But at least now everyone knows what kind of family you really are." And with that, I walked upstairs, each step heavy but steady. For the first time in weeks, I was going to sleep in a real bed. Not because they let me, but because I demanded it. They'd thrown me away once. Now I was the one who decided to stay. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 5. You ever wake up one morning thinking it's just another day, and then your world gets flipped upside down before you've even had your coffee? Well, strap in. Read it, because that's how this mess kicked off. I'm Brandon. No, not the happily married Brandon with the white picket fence and the wife who adores him. That guy got tossed out the window the second I overheard Helen, my wife of 8 years, giggling on the phone with her friend Angela. Now, Angela is this high-powered marketing exec, always dressed to kill, and with a laugh that could curdle milk. She's the type that considers marriage a game and fidelity, a suggestion. I never liked her, but Helen, she practically worshipped the ground Angela strutted on. So there I was, passing by Helen's home office door on my way to the kitchen, and I catch this snippet of their conversation. Brandon doesn't have to know. It's just a bit of fun. You deserve more than his tired, old-fashioned view of marriage. It hit me like a punch to the gut. My Helen, the one who'd stand by me through thick and thin, getting an earful of this garbage and agreeing with it. I knew I should have given Helen the choice, Angela or me earlier, but I messed up. And here I am now. I felt this cold rage settle in. As I stood there, my hand clenched around the doorknob. This wasn't just a casual chat. This was my wife being egged on by her so-called friend to cheat, to toss everything we had built together in the trash. And the worst part, she was laughing, that sound. It was like she'd completely forgotten who she was. Or maybe I never knew her at all. That's the raw, unfiltered start of my story. Folks, no sweet walks down memory lane here. Just the bitter truth of a man who got a wake-up call he never asked for. I scoured through our bank statements, credit cards, phone bills, you name it. I was looking for anything. A clue that Helen was taking these suggestions from Angela to heart. But here's the kicker, folks. There was nothing. Nada, zilch. Our bank statements were as mundane as they come. Groceries, a charge for a new blender. Because I broke cars trying to make margaritas, the usual phone bills. The most scandalous thing was the overage charge from Helen's mom calling to talk her ear off. I even started checking the mileage on her car. Yeah, I got that desperate. But every time it added up perfectly to her work and back. Maybe a little detour to the grocery store or the gym. It was infuriating. It was like I was trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering and thank you so much. If you subscribed, then there was Angela who was as slippery as an eel. I dropped by Helen's boutique unannounced, hoping to catch them in some illicit planning session. But it was always business as usual. Smiles, chatter about sales targets, and not even a hint of the deception I'd overheard. It made me doubt my own ears. Had I really heard what I thought I did? I felt like I was living in some parallel universe where everything looked exactly the same, but was completely different. Here I was a man who could turn a piece of wood into art, feeling completely powerless against the intangible. Helen was the perfect wife by all accounts, and Angela, the master manipulator, seemed like the supportive best friend. But you know that feeling in your gut, that gnawing, twisting certainty that something's off. It wouldn't let up. It kept me awake at night, staring at the ceiling while Helen slept peacefully beside me. I'd lay there, listening to the rhythm of her breath, wondering if she was dreaming of a life without me, a life Angela had convinced her she deserved. I couldn't shake it, so I kept watching, waiting. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You hope you're wrong about them, even when everything inside of you is screaming that you're not. Hey, read it. It's Brandon again. When I last left off, I was hanging by a thread, remember? Well, that thread has been fraying like crazy every day. The same routine. Wake up. Watch Helen. For any signs, any slip-up, any hint that could prove she wasn't the woman I thought she was. It was eating me alive. I started to lose it, honestly. My workshop, which used to be my sanctuary, started to feel like a prison. I'd stare at a block of wood for hours, chisel in hand, and the patterns I'd usually coax out of the grain just wouldn't come. My clients started asking questions. Is everything all right, Brandon? They'd say, this doesn't look like your best work. And they were right. It wasn't. My buddies would call ready for a round of beers and some pool, and I just ignored the calls. I couldn't face them, couldn't pretend everything was fine while my marriage was dangling over the edge of a cliff. I was the guy who had it all together. But now I was the guy spying on his wife, doubting her every move and losing sleep over a conversation that might have meant nothing or everything. I remember one night I got up while Helen was still sleeping. I just sat there in the dark, watching the rise and fall of her chest, listening to her breathing. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. I wanted to wake her up, to demand the truth to end this torment. But I couldn't. I didn't have proof, just this knowing suspicion that kept whispering in my ear. She's lying to you. My world narrowed it down to this singular focus. Find the truth. It wasn't just about whether she was cheating anymore. It was about whether I could trust my own judgment if I was wrong about her. What else was I wrong about myself? My friends, my whole damn life. The isolation was the worst part. It's like I built this wall around myself, brick by brick, with every doubt and every unanswered question. I stopped going to family barbecues, dodged my mom's Sunday dinners, and became a ghost to my own siblings. I was so deep in my own head I couldn't find the way out. All right, Reddit. It's Brandon again. My story hit a really tough spot. I decided it was time to ask Helen what was going on. I couldn't keep wondering and feeling bad all the time. I came in from working on some furniture in the garage, and there was Helen sitting on the sofa with her phone. I took a deep breath and told her we needed to talk. I was really calm, even though inside I felt like a storm was raging. We sat down and I told her straight up about the phone call I overheard with Angela about how I couldn't sleep, and about all the times I tried to find out if she was seeing someone else behind my back. I asked her, "Is there someone else, Helen?" She said, "No, she wasn't seeing anyone else." She cried and said that Angela was just making a bad joke and that I got it all wrong. She wanted me to believe her. She reached out to me, but I just couldn't. I couldn't hold her hand or make her feel better. I really wanted to believe her. Guys, she's my wife, Helen, who I've loved for so long, but I just couldn't get Angela's words out of my head. We went to bed that night but didn't talk. We didn't kiss goodnight or say, "I love you," like we usually do. She was crying quietly, and I just lay there, looking up at the ceiling, wondering if I even wanted to know the truth, or if it was better not to know. Out of the blue, I got help from someone I never expected to get involved. I was in my shop focusing on a piece of wood that was supposed to become someone's rocking chair, trying to find some peace in the familiar shavings and sawdust. That's when Jeff walked in. Now, Jeff is someone I'd call an acquaintance. Good for small talk. Knows a lot about a lot, and always has a way of popping in when you least expect it. He had this serious look on his face, which wasn't like him at all. He asked if we could step into the back room for a chat away from the prying eyes of the storefront. So there we were, surrounded by the skeletons of half-finished furniture, and he starts telling me this story. Turns out Jeff's sister works at the hotel where Angela and Helen have been holding these so-called business meetings, and she's seen Helen there too, but she was never alone. Always with this one guy, always cozy like they were more than just friends. Jeff said his sister kept it to herself because she didn't want to cause any trouble without being sure of what was happening. I felt like I was in a bad dream. All this time I had this feeling, but no proof. And here was Jeff handing me the last piece I needed. My head was spinning, but there was also this sense of relief. Finally, I had something solid. Jeff must have seen the emotions on my face because he put a hand on my shoulder and said he was sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but thought I had the right to know. He said he'd be there if I needed anything, which was the last thing I expected to hear from him. So there I was with this information that felt like a heavy brick in my hands. It was the key to everything that had been hidden from me. And now I had a decision to make about what to do next. Okay, read it. It's Brandon. After finding out the truth, I had to decide what to do. I didn't want to just lash out. I wanted to be smart about it, to do something that really mattered. First things first. I got my evidence together and talked to a lawyer. I wanted to know where I stood legally. The lawyer said the evidence was good. If it came down to it, I could take Helen to court. But this wasn't just about legal stuff. I wanted Helen and Angela to understand the consequences of their actions. For Angela, I knew I had to be subtle. She worked at this fancy marketing firm, and they have a reputation to uphold. So I sent a carefully worded letter to her boss, suggesting they look into Angela's behavior outside of work. I kept it anonymous and stuck to the facts. Next, I focused on Helen. I waited until she was out. Then I took my most important things and left the house. I didn't make a scene. I just left and went to stay with my brother. I needed some space to clear my head. I turned off my phone and stayed off social media. I just needed a break from everything. Helen tried to reach out, of course. She called. She texted, but I wasn't ready to talk to her, not after all this. That was how I handled it, quietly, but in a way that let them both know I was serious. It's not over yet, though. There's still more to come in this whole mess. Stay with me. So I laid out my cards, did what I had to do, and stepped back to watch the fallout. It's been a wild ride. And here's how it all went down after the dust started to settle. I heard through the grapevine what happened with Angela. That letter I sent. It did the trick. Her bosses took a closer look at her. And let's just say they didn't like what they saw. Last I heard, she was put on leave and had to scramble to keep her job. I guess her coworkers started seeing a different side of her. The one I'd been warning them about. Then there's Helen. After I left that evidence on the kitchen table and moved out, things for her got real. She came home to an empty house and a whole lot of truth staring back at her. She tried calling me, leaving voicemails, sending texts, apologies, excuses, promises to change. But I couldn't just forget everything and go back. Too much had happened. I needed time to think to be away from all the drama. I found out that Helen's boutique started to suffer without her focus. She lost a couple of big clients, and without Angela to push her into the spotlight, things just weren't the same. It was tough on her. That much was clear. But it was the bed she made. Now let's talk about me for a second. I did a lot of thinking, a lot of solo drives, a lot of staring at the ocean. I wondered if I went too far, if maybe I should have handled things differently. But then I remembered that feeling, that cold pit in my stomach when I first suspected something was wrong. And I knew I couldn't have just let it slide. I don't take joy in what happened to Angela or Helen. It's not about that. It's about actions and consequences. I had to face mine and they had to face theirs. I just wish it hadn't come to all this. So here I am, working in my shop again, finding peace in the grains of wood, in the smell of sawdust. I'm picking up the pieces, but it's a slow process. Every day's a little better, a little clearer. I'm starting to feel like myself again. But there's still a ways to go. That's the aftermath. Read it. It's messy. It's sad, but it's real. This whole saga, it's taught me a lot about trust, about forgiveness, and about moving on. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to the channel. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day or night. Story 6. I'm so happy that my ex-wife is miserable. 3 years ago, me 48 male found out that my wife, 46 female, was having an affair. She met a guy at work and came home one day telling me she was in love with him, no longer loved me and wanted a divorce. This was a guy she'd known for only 3 months at the time. She and I had been together since we were in our 20s, and we had 3 kids, 28 male, 26 male, and 23 female. Well, I tried to fight for my marriage and didn't want a divorce, but she simply would not stop seeing this guy after one weekend where she disappeared from Friday afternoon to Sunday night. I ended up throwing her out of the house. She immediately moved in with this guy. The only excuse she ever gave me was I never wanted to hurt you. But there's something about this guy, and I deserve to be happy. That was it. That was the depth of her reasoning for throwing everything that we built together away. We ended up finalizing her divorce in early 2022, although I had a very hard feelings towards her. I faked it enough to get pretty favorable old divorce terms from her. It seems she was so eager to be with her dream man that she didn't have time for a long divorce. So in the end, I got to keep my pension and the house which I had bought for my grandmother. I did have to give her half of my 401k. However, the effect on her kids was pretty devastating. All 3 of them took it very hard. My oldest son told her that if she chose this man, he'd never have a relationship with her again. As of right now, neither of her sons has a relationship with her mother. Our daughter does talk to her from time to time, but their relationship is very strained, to say the least. My daughter is a very kind person, and she tries, but she usually ends her conversations with her mother even more upset than when they started. About 4 months after the divorce, my ex contacted me out of the blue. She told me that she had made a terrible mistake and asked if she could come home. Her dream man turned out to be an alcoholic who she says was verbally abusive and wasted all of her money. I used this as an opportunity to tell her exactly what I thought of her as a person, a wife, and a mother. I told her that this was her life. Now, and she had to deal with it. I told her she no longer had a home at this house, and to never contact me again. Then a few things happened over the last year that had driven her to start trying to contact me again. First off, I met someone. My sister introduced me to a friend of hers who was also divorced, and she and I hit it off. We've been seeing each other since last summer, and while we've agreed that neither of us wants to get married again, we are together. Once my ex heard about this, she once again tried to contact me, but I ignored her. My son also got married and did not invite his mother. She again contacted me to try to get me to intervene on her behalf. I told her I would talk to him, but I never did. Secretly, I feel like she deserves all the pain she's feeling when it comes to her kids. She destroyed our family without so much as an afterthought. Too bad. So sad. Now she recently told her daughter that she finally broke it off with the dream man because she could not take his drinking and total lack of responsibility. He wasted her half of the 401 care that I had given her. He also totaled her car driving drunk. This from a man in his 40s. Again, she knew this guy for 3 months and torpedoed our whole family for him. On the face of that, I act like I feel sorry for her. But on the inside, Iris delight in the fact that she is so unhappy. Call me evil or whatever. I don't care. She brought this on herself, and it serves her right. I actually had to sit there one Saturday night while she got ready for a date with this guy and laughed on the phone with her friend about how awkward our living situation was. I lived in hell for over a year because of her. Wait until she finds out her son and his wife are going to have a baby later this year. Maybe if she had been able to keep her legs closed, she'd get to meet her grandchild. Enjoy your shitty one-bedroom apartment and your broken-down used car. Me and my new partner will think of you when we're on vacation in Hawaii this summer. Hawaii was the trip my ex and I always planned to take once our daughter finished college. Maybe I'll send her pictures now for the top of advices. Unless you've been there, it is impossible to understand the mind. Fuck. That is an exit affair. Seeing the natural consequences come to fruition must be something. I hope Hawaii is amazing. And yes, it's a total mindfuck to literally how the person you've been with since you were 20 come home from work one day and tell you they've fallen in love with someone that they've only known for a few months, and they want a divorce. I'm sorry that this happened to you too. Heck did. I'm right there with you. Granted, my marriage lasted less than years and our kids are much younger, but I'm with you. What made it sting for me was that she used the infamous line, "Oh, he's just a friend. There's nothing going on. I think of him like a brother. So you're into incest or something? I don't know." She texted me tonight. I've kept most of her interactions via text unless she calls while I'm driving, so I have a written record. While I always use profanity in everyday language, I've never to her face called her any names of any sort, which I think will come in handy long term, asking if I could send her some money for insulin meter or some shit. I told her that I'd be willing to meet her at the store and purchase it in my state. I'm still legally obligated to financially support her until the divorce is final. She immediately declined it and followed it by saying, "Never mind, I'll figure it out. And then don't worry, I won't be asking for anything from you anymore." Yeah, you dumb shit. You kind of gave up the privilege of me taking care of you when you walked out. I've done nothing but take care of you for the last 10 years. And now you're going to say I'm abusive. Sucks when I no longer buy your bullshit, doesn't it? To be honest, I'm waiting for about 5 years down the road when she signs over custody because she can't take care of her kids on her weeks. Not what I want to happen, but I've only ignored my gut a few times and it's bit me every time I did, and my gut is telling me to prepare. Rather cathartic to read that I'm not the only one who's been blindsided by their ex. Thank you for relating your experiences. It helps to know I'm not alone and that I'm really not the bad guy. I'm not innocent, but I'm not the villain story too. In my hole for snapping at my aunt who said I wasn't a real doctor. 35 female MD, plastic surgeon. I went through years of medical school and had residency, but it was worth it. I originally started med school for hopes of going into psychiatry, but surgery really interested me. The problem started years ago when I first told my family that I was going into plastic surgery because it was what interests me the most. My parents, siblings, and brother-in-law were all supportive, and whenever I felt like giving up, they were always there to push me. But a lot of my other family members weren't as supportive. My aunts always made snide comments about it, as well as my cousins, uncles, and grandparents on both sides. They were all happy when they knew I was in med school, but completely flipped when they found out I was pursuing plastic surgery. It annoyed me at first, but I learned just to move on from it. But recently my cousin, 40 female on my dad's side, who's the daughter of the dad who keeps making comments about my job, done a policy on nursing and childcare, which didn't bother me. I couldn't care less what she does. But my aunt thought I should know everything that's happening with her daughter. Every time I see her, she goes on about how smart her daughter is and how amazing she is. We're doing a policy in nursing and childcare. But the last time I saw her, she said something that really annoyed me. Me and my sister were over at her house because she had some hand-me-downs to give to my nephew. We were all eating when she said, It's great that she's going into medical school. She's not. She doesn't even have the brains for medical school. Maybe we can finally have a real doctor in the family. I sat there in silence for a second, thinking, what the F is she even talking about? And then looked at my sister, who looked equally as pissed off as me. I snapped back and said, her changing kids' soiled pants does not make her a doctor, and her knowing how to clean a cut doesn't either. She's not in medical school. She's too dumb for that. She wouldn't even last a week before dropping out. My aunt looked really pissed off and yelled at me for being rude. And then she told me I wasn't much of a doctor either. I yelled back at her that I went through years of med school and residency, and that I'm a licensed doctor and surgeon, and that she doesn't know what she's talking about. My aunt started crying and left the room, so me and my sister just left. A few hours later, I got a text from my cousin calling me a bitch for what I said and attacking her mom. I got more texts from other family members, and it somehow traveled to my mom's side of the family as well. Majority of them are telling me to apologize for yelling at my aunt, but my immediate family mom, dad, brother, sister, in-laws, girlfriend are telling me not to. Now I'm going to be shunned by both sides of the family, and they're all refusing to talk to me and won't even let me tell my side of the story. So was I the a-hole? Now for the type of advices, not the whole. Oh, did it somehow travel around the family? You can tell them I said to piss off, and that the plastic surgeon who fixed my 5-year-old sister's face when a dog ate it is so now that within a year, nobody can tell it even happened. Changing her life for the better. In fact, madam, a real doctor. And so is the plastic surgeon who put my friend's chest back together after her double mass, giving her back confidence and her mental health. So there we're taking those new tattoos to Hawaii this year and bringing a happy, emotionally healthy friend with them. Oh, I'm so angry on your behalf. A guy in my high school went through a windshield and absolutely destroyed his face. Plastic surgery got him looking almost back to normal. I went through medical school and practice for years. My specialty was tropical medicine, but I ended up doing just about a little bit of everything as I worked in underserved communities in Africa. I don't practice anymore because I moved back to Canada and switched careers. That's not the point, though. I'm sure family would consider me a real doctor. Plastic surgeons are 100 million times the clinicians I could ever be. Plastic surgery is an art form. It is so easy to make tiny mistakes and completely ruin someone forever. Surgery period is an art form. Anatomy is complicated. The slightest deviation from what you've intended to do can lead to severe bleeding, nerve damage, or worse for the patient. Plastic surgery has all the same risks and complications that need to be considered, but with the additional fact that the goal is aesthetically pleasing and functional result. And there's the fact that no one has to be able to judge what one's work is going to look like after the body has completed the healing process. It's like working on a sculpture that is going to bulge, shrink, and shift in the days and weeks after the sculptor has completed their work. Plastic surgery might be in my future. I'm trans, and it's plastic surgeons who do the work on us below the belt. And I can absolutely say that if I do, the person working on me is absolutely a real doctor, and one who has my deepest respect as I do for Opie, the family, and anyone who tries to say that plastic surgeons are somehow less than are ignorant beyond all belief. The only exception to this is the quack predatory surgeons who knowingly perform irresponsible procedures on patients who are often suffering from surgical addiction. But that's not OP at all. I'm just including that. The statement for the sake of completeness. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you. Story 7. You're not invited to Christmas this year, my dad snapped. Fine, I replied, quietly transferring the $15,000 Park City fund back into my account and canceling the luxury cabin reservation. By morning, I had 8 missed calls, and the panic in their voices made me smile. This happened about 8 months ago, and I'm finally ready to share the whole story. Some of you guys have been asking me to post this after I mentioned it in another thread. Fair warning, this is going to be long, but worth the read if you want to see justice served properly. For those asking in my DMs, yes, this is 100% real, and yes, I have all the receipts. I changed some minor details for privacy, but the core events are exactly as they happened. Alright, so context first, because this goes way back. I'm Dan, 29 male, and I work as a senior project manager for a major logistics company. Been grinding since college, working my way up from warehouse floor to corporate office, managing million-dollar supply chain operations, while most people my age are still figuring out basic adulting. My family, though? Complete different story. Dad, 52 male, runs a small accounting firm, makes decent money, but acts like he's running Goldman Sachs. Always wearing these expensive suits he can barely afford. Driving a BMW he's still making payments on. Classic middle-class guy with champagne dreams and beer budget. Mom, 49 female, works part-time as an office administrator, but spends most of her energy playing family therapist and enabling everyone's nonsense. One of those keep the peace at all costs types who would rather ignore problems than deal with reality. Then, there's my sister Emma, 26 female. Holy cow, where do I even start with this girl? She's basically the poster child for entitled millennial princess syndrome. Went to college for art therapy, which is code for professional partying, never held a real job for more than 6 months, but somehow always has money for designer purses and weekly spa treatments. Emma figured out early that being pretty and playing victim gets you everything you want in life. She's mastered the art of crying on command, making every conversation about her problems, and guilting people into funding her lifestyle. And it works because she's got this whole innocent blonde thing going that fools older relatives and desperate guys alike. Meanwhile, I'm over here actually contributing to society, managing complex logistics operations, paying my own bills, and generally being a productive human being. But somehow Emma's the one who gets praised for being creative, while I'm just the boring project manager who needs to learn how to have fun. The pattern's been the same for years. Emma gets in trouble. Family rallies around her. Emma needs money. Everyone chips in. Emma has a crisis which is usually self-created. Suddenly, it's all hands on deck to fix her life. Me? I solve my own problems like a grown man. But this Christmas was supposed to be different. I finally had some serious money saved up and wanted to do something special for the family. Show them that their responsible son could provide experiences, not just fix everyone's messes when they came calling. Big mistake. The whole dynamic had been building for years. Every family gathering was the same pattern. Emma would show up with some new crisis or exciting announcement about her latest business venture that never went anywhere. She'd get all the attention while I sat there like background furniture. When I got promoted to senior project manager last year, Dad's reaction was, "Well, it's about time you made something of yourself." When Emma quit her job at the flower shop because her manager didn't understand her artistic vision, the family response was, "She's too special for normal jobs anyway." I'd been subsidizing this dysfunction for years without really thinking about it. Car repairs for Emma when she couldn't afford them. Business loan for Dad when his firm hit a rough patch. Vacation fund for Mom when she wanted to visit her sister. Always framed as temporary help that I'd get back eventually. Of course, I never saw a penny returned, but I didn't push it because family is family, right? I made good money, and they needed help. Seemed like the right thing to do. But somewhere along the way, my help went from appreciated to expected. From emergency assistance to regular subsidy. I became the family ATM and didn't even realize it until much later. That Christmas planning seemed like a chance to change the dynamic. Instead of just fixing their problems, I could create something positive. Give them an experience that would show I wasn't just the boring, responsible one. I could provide luxury and fun too. Should have known better. So last September, I got promoted to senior project manager on our biggest logistics contract. Massive bump in salary, plus a fat bonus for bringing the previous project in, under budget, and ahead of schedule. I'm talking serious money here. Cleared 6 figures for the first time in my career. Instead of blowing it on a new truck or investment schemes like most guys would, I decided to plan an epic family Christmas vacation. Found this incredible luxury cabin in Park City. 4 bedrooms, hot tub, full kitchen, private mountain access, the works. We're talking $15,000 for a week between Christmas and New Year's. Yeah, 15 grand. That's more than some people make in 4 months. But I figured it would be worth it to finally give my family a Christmas they'd remember forever. Maybe show them that the quiet project manager son had turned into someone who could provide the finer things in life. I spent weeks researching places, reading reviews, making sure everything was perfect. Found a place that looked like something out of a travel magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountain slopes. Massive stone fireplace, gourmet kitchen with professional appliances. The kind of place where celebrities go to ski. The photos were incredible. Master suite with a view that stretched for miles. Living room with cathedral ceilings and furniture that probably cost more than my car. Kitchen stocked with everything you'd need to cook for a small army. Private hot tub on the deck overlooking pristine wilderness. I put down the deposit and sent the confirmation to Dad, expecting maybe some appreciation for the gesture. His response was classic him. About time you contributed something meaningful to this family. Not thanks, not appreciation, just this attitude like I owed them this level of luxury. Should have been red flag number 1, but I ignored it because I was excited about the trip. Emma's reaction was even worse. She immediately started posting on Instagram about our family's Christmas at the Park City mansion and tagging all her influencer wannabe friends. Posted pictures of the cabin from the rental website like she'd personally selected and paid for it. started making wish lists of designer ski outfits, and researching which restaurants she wanted to hit. Not one mention of who actually booked and paid for this whole thing. According to her social media, this was just another example of the universe providing for her, because she deserved beautiful experiences and was manifesting abundance. The entitlement was unreal, but I figured once we got there, once she saw how much effort and money I'd put into making this happen, maybe she'd show some actual gratitude for once. Maybe the whole family would see that I wasn't just the guy who fixed problems. I was the guy who made dreams come true. I started planning activities for everyone. Researched the best ski instructors for Emma, who had never been on slopes before. Found a spa package for Mom, who always complained about being stressed. Even looked into business networking events for Dad, since he was always talking about expanding his client base. The resort town had everything. Fine dining restaurants where I made reservations months in advance. Boutique shopping that Emma would love. Cultural attractions for Mom, who always said she wanted to be more sophisticated. Even a golf simulator for Dad, despite the winter weather. I was picturing family dinners around that massive dining table, everyone laughing and bonding over shared experiences. Maybe some actual gratitude for the son who made it all possible. Again, big mistake. December rolls around, and I'm getting excited about the trip. Bought some new gear, researched the best activities, even prepaid for ski lessons and spa appointments. I was actually looking forward to spending quality time with my family for once, instead of just being the problem solver they called when things went wrong. Then everything imploded on a Tuesday night in mid-December. I stopped by my parents' house after work to drop off some early Christmas presents I'd picked up during a business trip. They were sitting in the living room looking at Emma's phone. She was showing them photos of ski outfits she wanted to buy, giggling about how jealous her friends were going to be when they saw her posts from the luxury cabin. I mentioned something about double-checking our dinner reservations for the fancy steakhouse when Dad cut me off mid-sentence. "You're not coming on the trip." Just like that. Matter of fact, like he was telling me dinner was ready. I stared at him. "What?" "You heard me," he said, not even looking up from Emma's phone. "We've decided it's going to be immediate family only this year. You understand?" The words didn't even make sense at first. Immediate family only? I am immediate family. I'm their son and brother. Emma smirked without looking away from her phone. "Yeah, Dan. No offense, but you kind of ruined the vibe. This is supposed to be fun and relaxing, not one of your boring responsibility lectures." I felt my blood pressure spike. I booked the cabin. I paid for it. $15,000. Dad finally looked at me, annoyed like I was interrupting something important. "Language, Daniel. And yes, we appreciate you handling the logistics. But Emma's going through a difficult time right now. She'd quit another job the week before because her boss was controlling, aka expected her to show up consistently. And she needs family support. Your presence tends to create unnecessary tension." Mom nodded along like a bobblehead. "Maybe it's for the best, honey. You work so hard you could probably use a quiet Christmas to relax at home by yourself." That's when it clicked. They weren't kicking me out because of some family drama. They were kicking me out because Emma wanted them to. Because Princess couldn't handle having someone around who might expect her to show some gratitude or contribute something besides Instagram content. I looked at the three of them sitting there, already planning their luxury vacation on my dime, making me the villain for having the audacity to expect basic respect, and something cold settled in my chest. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want me to pay 15 grand for a luxury vacation that I'm not invited to attend?" "Don't be dramatic," Emma said, finally looking up from her phone. "You make good money. You can afford it. And we'll totally post pictures and tag you so you can see how much fun we're having." The casual cruelty of that statement hit me like a physical blow. She actually thought I should be grateful for the privilege of funding their vacation and watching it happen through social media posts. Dad cleared his throat. "Daniel, you're a grown man with your own life. This is a chance for the core family unit to bond without outside complications. I'm sure you can find something productive to do with your time. Outside complications." That's what I was to them. Not a son and brother, but a complication to be managed and excluded when convenient. "Fine," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Enjoy your family trip." They probably thought I was going to go home and sulk about it. Maybe call them later begging to be included. What they didn't realize was that I'd just made a decision that would change everything. The cabin was booked under Dad's name for ego reasons, but my credit card was on file for all charges. My money, my reservation, my choice what happened next. I went home, opened my laptop, and canceled the entire booking. All $15,000 back in my account within 24 hours. Let's see how much fun their family bonding time would be in Dad's cramped townhouse with no mountain views or luxury amenities. The next morning, my phone exploded. And I mean complete nuclear meltdown level chaos. Dad called 8 times before 9 a.m. His voicemails went from confused to angry to borderline threatening. First, it was, Dan, there seems to be some error with the Park City reservation. Call me immediately to sort this out. Then, this isn't funny. Whatever game you're playing, fix it right now. People are depending on this trip. Finally, you're embarrassing this family and yourself. People are asking questions, and I don't have answers. This ends today, or there will be consequences. Emma's texts were even more unhinged. Are you kidding me? I already told everyone about Park City. My friends think I'm a liar now. You're ruining my reputation and my mental health. Followed by, Dad says you canceled out of spite, but I know you're not that petty. Just fix this mess and we can all move forward like adults. And then, fine, be a baby about it. But you're paying for my therapy because this is traumatic and I can't handle this kind of stress in my life. The audacity was breathtaking. She was literally demanding I pay for therapy because I canceled a vacation she had excluded me from that I was paying for entirely out of my own pocket. But the real performance came that evening when Mom showed up at my apartment. She had this whole guilt trip production ready, brought homemade cookies, got all teary-eyed, the full emotional manipulation arsenal. Honey, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding, she started in that sweet, practiced voice she uses when she wants something. Your father didn't mean you weren't welcome. He's just worried about Emma's mental health right now and thought a smaller group might be less overwhelming for her. So I'm invited now? I asked directly. Her smile got tight and forced. Well, that depends. Can you fix the Park City situation first? Emma's already made promises to her friends, and your father told his business partners about the luxury cabin. We can't let them down or make the family look unreliable. There it was. I wasn't invited because they wanted me there or valued my presence. I was conditionally invited because they needed me to clean up their mess and make their lies into reality. What if I don't fix it? I asked. Mom's mask slipped for just a second, and I saw the calculation underneath. Then you're choosing to hurt your family, Daniel. Is that really who you want to be? The son who destroys Christmas out of selfishness? I walked her to the door without giving her the answer she desperately wanted. But inside, I was already planning phase 2 of something much bigger. Because if they thought canceling the vacation was bad, they had absolutely no idea what was coming next. The family group chat Emma had created was still active. She kept posting like the trip was definitely happening, asking what everyone wanted her to bring back from the luxury resort. Mom was sending heart emojis and talking about how excited she was for family bonding time. Dad posted about wine selections and how he couldn't wait to hit the slopes. Like this was all his idea and his generous gift to the family. I watched this circus with a weird mix of disgust and growing anticipation. They were digging themselves deeper with every post, making bigger promises to more people. The eventual crash was going to be absolutely spectacular. But I wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet. First, I wanted to see just how far they'd go to maintain their fantasy. Over the next few days, the pressure campaign intensified dramatically. Emma created a group chat called Park City Christmas Magic and added the entire extended family. Started posting about how excited she was, asking aunts and uncles what souvenirs they wanted her to bring back from the fancy resort town. The messed up part? She was still pretending the trip was definitely happening. Posted photos of ski gear she was shopping for with captions like, "Can't decide which designer jacket to pack for our luxury cabin." Made a big show of asking for restaurant recommendations and talking about spa appointments she was supposedly booking. Our cousins were commenting about how lucky she was, how they wished they could afford such an amazing Christmas experience. Emma was eating up every bit of attention, responding with fake humble comments about being so blessed and grateful for family that makes dreams come true. Dad joined in enthusiastically, posting about how he couldn't wait to hit the slopes and talking about the business networking opportunities he was planning to pursue in Park City. Made it sound like this was all his brilliant idea, his generous gift to show the family how successful his accounting firm had become. I watched this performance with growing anger and disbelief. They were lying to dozens of people, building up expectations they couldn't possibly meet, all while acting like I didn't exist or matter. But then, Dad made a mistake that changed everything and crossed a line I didn't even know existed. I got a call from my bank's fraud prevention department about suspicious activity on my account. Someone had attempted to make a large purchase using my card details, a $15,000 deposit for a cabin rental in Park City. The booking was attempted under Dad's name with my financial information. My own father had tried to commit credit card fraud, actually attempted to steal $15,000 from me to cover up their lies and maintain their fantasy vacation. That phone call was the moment everything shifted. This wasn't just about family drama or hurt feelings anymore. They'd crossed into actual criminal behavior. Dad had literally tried to steal from his own son to avoid facing consequences for his lies. I started documenting everything with the methodical precision I used for logistics operations at work. Screenshots of Emma's social media posts claiming credit for my generosity. Bank statements showing I'd paid for the original booking. The detailed fraud alert from my financial institution. Every text message and voicemail they'd sent. But more importantly, I started making some strategic phone calls of my own. My uncle Jim, Dad's older brother who runs a successful construction company, had always been straight with me. I figured he deserved to know what was really happening before he got caught up in their web of deception. Dan, he said after I explained the situation, your dad called me last week asking for a loan to cover unexpected vacation expenses. Said it was an investment in family relationships and asked for $3,000. Now I'm wondering what he really needed the money for. Turns out Dad had been systematically hitting up relatives for cash, claiming he was covering the Park City trip, but needed help with extras like flights, activities, and fancy dinners. He'd collected almost $5,000 from various family members based entirely on the lie that he was the one planning and paying for this generous Christmas gift. Uncle Jim was furious when he realized he'd been scammed. Your father used my trust in him to get money under false pretenses. That's not just lying, Dan. That's fraud. That's when I knew exactly how to destroy them completely. They wanted to play games with lies and manipulation? I'd show them what happened when you tried to con someone who managed complex operations for a living. I spent the next 2 weeks playing the long game with military precision. Let them think they'd won, that I was sulking at home while they figured out damage control for their imaginary vacation. Meanwhile, I was gathering intelligence and setting up the perfect moment to destroy them. Through Uncle Jim, I learned Dad had secretly booked a much cheaper cabin about 3 hours outside Denver, some basic 2-bedroom place for $900 total. He was planning to pass it off as just as good as Park City and hope people didn't ask too many detailed questions about the accommodations. Emma was still posting like they were going to the original luxury resort, showing off expensive ski gear she'd bought with Dad's borrowed money from relatives. Her Instagram story was a daily countdown to Park City Christmas, with increasingly ridiculous captions about living her best life and how blessed she was to have such a generous family. The family group chat was pure comedy gold, relatives asking for the exact address so they could send Christmas cards to the cabin. Dad making vague excuses about finalizing security details, while Emma posted stock photos of Park City and pretended they were previews of where they'd be staying. She'd even started a hashtag, #Blessed in Park City, and was encouraging family members to use it when they posted about the trip. The level of delusion was staggering, but the real opportunity came when I discovered their Christmas Eve plan. Dad had invited his biggest clients and business partners to a holiday celebration at my apartment complex's clubhouse. He was planning to regale them with stories about the amazing family trip to Park City, using it as a networking opportunity to talk about how successful and generous he'd become. Emma was planning to bring her photographer friend to take candid shots of the party that she could post later, with captions about, "Back from our incredible Park City adventure." The plan was to sell the lie so completely that no one would ever question what really happened during their Christmas vacation. That's when I decided to give them a Christmas they'd never forget for all the wrong reasons. I booked the same clubhouse for December 27th, 2 days after their fake celebration. Sent invitations to the entire extended family, Dad's business associates, even some of Emma's social media friends. Called it a post-Christmas family gathering, and promised some major announcements about exciting developments for the new year. What I didn't mention was that those announcements would include a complete breakdown of their lies, documented evidence of the fraud attempt, and a very detailed explanation of exactly who had paid for what over the years. I spent days preparing a presentation that would have made my corporate training proud. Every lie documented with screenshots. Every financial transaction backed up with bank records. Every false claim to relatives supported with evidence. But first, I had to let them have their moment. Let them dig the hole as deep as possible before I buried them in it permanently. Christmas came and went exactly as I expected. They did their pathetic fake celebration at the clubhouse. Dad spinning elaborate stories about the amazing luxury cabin, while Emma showed off photos she'd clearly stolen from travel websites. I stayed home, watched football, and put the finishing touches on my presentation. The revenge I was planning would be nuclear. Complete destruction of their reputations, their relationships, and their financial security. They'd used me as their personal ATM while treating me like garbage, and now they were about to learn what happened when you betrayed someone who had the skills and resources to fight back properly. December 27th was going to be a day they remembered forever. December 27th arrived with perfect weather, cold and clear, just like my mindset. The extended family started showing up around 2 p.m. for what they thought would be a pleasant post-Christmas gathering. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends. Dad's business associates came too, expecting another round of networking and success stories from their colleagues' generous Christmas hosting. Emma brought her photographer friend and was posing near the entrance like some kind of celebrity returning from an exotic vacation. She'd changed her Instagram bio to just back from Park City Magic and was wearing new designer clothes she'd clearly bought with the relative loan money. I waited until everyone was settled, until conversations were flowing and people were relaxed and receptive. Then I stood up and asked for everyone's attention in the same confident voice I used for corporate presentations. "Thanks everyone for coming today," I said. I wanted to share some exciting news about the holidays and clear up any confusion about recent events that might have been circulating. Dad looked nervous, but was trying to maintain his confident facade. Emma was still preening, probably thinking this was going to be some kind of public apology or reconciliation that would make her look even better to her audience. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to the big screen TV in the clubhouse with the same efficiency I used for work presentations. First, let me show you the real story of our family Christmas vacation planning. Up went the original Park City booking confirmation. My name as the primary renter. My credit card as the payment method. $15,000 total cost clearly displayed. People started murmuring and shifting in their seats. Dad's face went completely white. Next, here's the cancellation notice from when I was informed I wouldn't be welcome on the vacation I had planned and paid for entirely myself. Screenshot of the refund confirmation. 15 grand back in my account on December 15th. The date stamp clearly visible. Emma started to panic, her voice getting shrill. "Dan, what are you doing? This is supposed to be a celebration." "Oh, it definitely is a celebration," I said calmly. "Keep watching." Next slide. Screenshots of Emma's Instagram posts. Her claiming the Park City trip was happening exactly as planned. Her asking followers for restaurant recommendations. Her daily countdown to the trip of a lifetime, with hashtags about being blessed and grateful. Then, the bank fraud alert. Dad's name on the attempted transaction. The official noticed that it was flagged as potential identity theft and credit card fraud. The room was dead silent now except for the sound of people's shocked breathing. "But here's my personal favorite part," I said, clicking to the next slide with the timing of a professional presenter. The family fundraising campaign that nobody except the victims knew about. I'd spent days documenting every loan request Dad had made. Uncle Jim had helped me reach out to other relatives who'd been approached. Turned out Dad had collected almost $6,000 from various family members, all based entirely on the lie that he was covering an expensive family vacation and needed help with additional costs. The evidence was devastating. Screenshots of text messages asking for money, bank transfer records showing the payments, even voicemails where Dad had laid on thick emotional appeals about wanting to give his family a Christmas they deserved. One of Dad's business partners stood up looking absolutely furious. "Wait just a minute. You told me you were taking your family to Park City for Christmas. Said it cost $18,000 and you wanted to show them how successful the firm was becoming this year?" "I never said Park City specifically," Dad stammered weakly. "You absolutely did," the man shot back. "I've been telling my wife about your amazing family generosity for weeks. You specifically mentioned the luxury cabin and the $15,000 budget." Emma tried desperately to salvage the situation. "There was a misunderstanding about the booking details, but we still had an amazing Christmas together. The location doesn't matter when you have family love." I clicked to the final slide. Screenshots from their actual Christmas. The cramped $900 cabin near Denver. Dad looking miserable in every photo. Emma's Instagram stories that she'd quickly deleted but I'd saved. The stark reality versus the elaborate performance she'd been putting on for weeks. "Here's where they actually spent Christmas," I said. A $900 cabin 3 hours outside Denver, while telling everyone they were in Park City and collecting thousands of dollars from family members to supposedly pay for luxury accommodations. The explosion was immediate and brutal. Uncle Jim stood up and pointed directly at Dad. "You owe me $3,000, John. Today. Not next week, not next month. Today." Other relatives started demanding their money back, their voices overlapping in anger. Dad's business associates were looking at him like he had some kind of contagious disease, because in their world, lying about your financial situation and family success was career suicide. Emma started crying, but not the manipulative tears she usually deployed with surgical precision. These were real, ugly sobs, because her entire carefully crafted social media persona was crumbling in real time in front of everyone who mattered to her. "I trusted you," one of her photographer friends said loudly. "I've been promoting your lifestyle content to my followers. Now I look like a complete fool." Dad tried to leave, but I wasn't finished destroying him yet. "One more thing," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "Since there seems to be some confusion about family finances and who actually supports whom, I thought you should all know that I've been subsidizing Dad's business and Emma's entire lifestyle for years. Car payments, rent deposits, credit card bills, business loans. I've got detailed records of everything. I'd spent the previous week creating a comprehensive financial breakdown. 3 years of loans that were never repaid. Money I'd given them for supposed emergencies that turned out to be shopping sprees, business trips, and luxury purchases. Almost $40,000 total that they'd conveniently forgotten about or refused to acknowledge. So when you're wondering how they afford their lifestyle on a small accounting firm's income and Emma's non-existent job history, now you know. They don't. I do. I've been their silent financial backer while being treated like an inconvenience they could exclude whenever it suited them. That's when Emma completely lost it. Started screaming about how I'd ruined her life and destroyed her reputation and humiliated her in front of everyone. Dad was trying to hustle her toward the exit, but people were blocking their path, demanding answers and explanations. His business partners were the most brutal. These guys had brought Dad into deals and partnerships based on his claimed financial success and strong family values. Now they were looking at fraud, systematic lying, and exploitation of family relationships. I heard one of them say quietly to another, "We need to review his involvement in the Morrison account first thing Monday morning." By the end of the evening, Dad had lost 3 major clients who canceled their contracts on the spot. Emma's social media career was basically over as word spread about the fake lifestyle content. But that was just the beginning of their problems. The aftermath was swift and absolutely devastating to watch. Within 2 weeks, Dad lost 6 more clients as word spread through the local business community about his lies and the attempted credit card fraud. His partner at the accounting firm started asking serious questions about other business practices and financial irregularities. Turns out when people think you're a liar and potential thief, they don't want to trust you with their financial planning and tax preparation. Emma's influencer friends dropped her completely once they realized her lifestyle content was fraudulent. Her follower count plummeted from 8,000 to less than 1,200 as word spread about the fake vacation posts and borrowed lifestyle. The photographer friend threatened to sue for payment and professional embarrassment. But the real damage came from the extended family. Uncle Jim cut them off completely and demanded immediate repayment. Other relatives who'd been scammed started pursuing legal options for recovering their money. The family group chats went completely silent. Nobody wanted to be associated with the drama or risk being asked for more loans. Dad's BMW got repossessed when he couldn't make payments without the relative loan money he'd been using to cover his car note. Emma had to move back in with my parents because she couldn't afford rent without her social media income and had no real job skills to fall back on. That's when the begging phase began in earnest. First, it was Mom. She showed up at my apartment looking like she'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks, carrying a casserole like old times. "Daniel, your father's business is failing rapidly. Emma's having panic attacks every day. The whole family is falling apart. We desperately need your help to fix this situation." "Funny," I said. "I don't remember being considered part of the family when you needed a vacation funded." "That was a terrible mistake," she said, tears starting. "We see that clearly now. But you can't just watch us lose everything out of spite and wounded pride." "Not spite," I corrected. "Natural consequences." She tried guilt, tears, anger, the complete emotional manipulation playbook. But I'd been dealing with their tactics my whole life. I knew every trick they had. Dad came next. Showed up at my office building during lunch hour in a cheap suit, looking desperate and defeated. "Son, I know we made serious mistakes, but I'm facing bankruptcy here. The house is in jeopardy. Your mother's health insurance is through my business. If the firm fails, she loses her medical coverage." He actually played the "your mother will die without health insurance" card. These people had absolutely no shame or boundaries. "You want my help?" I said. "Here are my terms. Full public apology to everyone you lied to and scammed. Repayment of every single dollar you collected under false pretenses. And Emma gets a real job and pays back every cent I've loaned your family over the past 3 years." He tried to negotiate like we were discussing a business deal. "Be reasonable, Daniel. We can work out a payment plan that works for everyone." "Those are my terms," I cut him off. "Take them, or leave them." He left them. Emma was the last to come crawling back. She waited until she was completely desperate, evicted from her apartment, Social media career dead. No job prospects because she had no real skills or work history to fall back on. She showed up crying outside my office building, looking like she hadn't slept in days, and wearing clothes I recognized from high school. Dan, please. I know I messed up badly, but I'm literally about to be homeless. I've got nowhere to go and nobody who will help me. Should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't family, I said. I was wrong. I see that now. I'll do anything. Get a real job, pay you back everything, whatever you want. Just please don't let me end up on the street. For a moment, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then I remembered every snide comment, every entitled demand, every time she'd taken my help for granted while treating me like I was lucky to be related to her. You know what, Emma? You're absolutely right. You will get a real job. You will pay me back. And you'll do it without any help from me, just like I've done everything in my life without help from any of you. She tried to grab my arm as I walked away. Dan, please. I'm your sister. Sisters don't exclude their brothers from Christmas after their brothers pay for everything, I said. You made your choice. Live with it. That was 8 months ago. I heard through Uncle Jim that Dad's business finally collapsed completely. They lost the house and had to move into a small apartment across town. Emma's working at a chain restaurant now, making minimum wage and living in a studio apartment that makes my first place out of college look like a mansion.